Zero. And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war. You gotta become war.
Boom. And welcome to Rambo and Frens. Nothing's happening this morning. I guess it's just going to be a boring show. I'm just playing. I have not slept yet because there's been so much that's been going on. This is about to be an absolute blast. Sometimes God, the plan, Q, I don't even know at this point. I guess God's in charge of all of it anyway, but God just drops bombs in your lap when you do something like this. So much so that I lost all of the sleep that I planned on getting before the show. So, look, let me just welcome everybody in here. There's so many over here in Rumble already. I can't possibly run through all the names, but I want to say thank you very, very much for coming in and hanging out. Do me a favor on your way in, hit that positive affirmation button. Let's get Rambo and Frens up there in the ranks. You guys have been doing an amazing job of doing that so far. Same thing over on pill.net. I see a handful of you guys already coming over and hanging out. Take that red pill. If you are over on Twitter, same thing. Please share the show out. Please know that these other platforms are here. I love pill.net. I love Rumble. And of course, we are also streaming on YouTube. We'll see how long it lasts. So far, it's been successful. We've only gotten a few warnings, and they were pretty generic. It was for what's it called? For playing people's music that was not ours, right? That type of stuff. It wasn't for any type of conspiracy or being dangerous or anything yet. We'll see. But with that being said, I'm gonna bring these guys on so we can just get into what's been happening this morning and what these guys have to present because OMG, it's a lot. So here we go. Let's hear from the boss and then we'll bring these guys on.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Boom. Smart Paul. JFanon. What's going on, bro?
Hey, man. How are you doing?
Hello.
How'd you guys switch sides? Hold on. That was probably my fault.
Switch sides. We don't do trados.
What?
Look, I gotta ask you guys. So we talked just a little bit pre-show, but were you guys aware of what happened this morning?
I wasn't.
I know I wasn't. No.
I'm really excited to share this with you. I'm really okay. Let me start this off being very realistic. Every time something huge like what is being perceived as huge that happened this morning happens throughout this movement, there's always an out, right? I don't think that Q or Forpog or Donald Trump or, Trump just told us that General Kellogg was there before he ran, right? And he wasn't the only one. He stated that there was quite a few of the generals that asked him to run for president in 2015. At least that's what we're assuming because it was before the election. There's always some sort of logical out. What I would say, some reason to give the mass majority of the population a reason to be in denial, as far as I'm concerned, right? So, and I think that goes for what we're going to talk about on the first part of this show today. However, if you've been paying attention and you're connecting dots the way that I believe most of the people that watch this show are, what happened this morning is a huge freaking deal. And I think we'll get into the logic of it in just a minute. So you guys are aware of what I'm talking about at this point, right? So Donald Trump,
Yeah,
unannounced. Did you guys know this was happening?
No, I didn't know it was happening. And I mean, how does this just happens? Like, well, maybe we ought to get into it.
Well, I think that's the first point. I think maybe we should talk about that before we even get into it. How come I didn't know that Donald Trump was going to lay the wreath in Arlington Cemetery at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for the 13 soldiers that died in the botched, most embarrassing moment in American history, if you listen to Donald Trump, Afghanistan pullout?
Why wouldn't the Biden administration do that? Why would they give Trump the exposure? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
None. Is it
Well, I mean,
possible?
it does, but we'll get to that.
Let me ask that question later. Let's watch. I clipped it into 2 clips, and I actually also pulled some pieces out of. He did a short presser after. I have a few clips of that as well. I want to show you guys. But here's the first part of the unannounced Donald Trump laying the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for the 13 soldiers that passed away in the botched Afghanistan pullout.
The ceremony that you're about to witness is an Army wreath-laying ceremony to be conducted on behalf of the family of Sergeant Nicole G.
You guys know how this goes. If you have to interject or want to say anything at any point in time, just let me know. I'll stop it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So this happened as I was getting ready to put my head on the pillow for an 1.5-hour nap so I could hang out with you guys.
No sleep for you.
And I was like, what the? And it's not the only, this isn't the only show I'm doing. I'm doing a show tonight with Captain Kyle, which is going to be amazing. It's going to bring together multiple families. It's something I'm super excited about. And this freaking happens.
That Master Sergeant has better posture than Trump
does. The one thing I want you guys to watch for that people are bringing up is that there's never a salute, not to Trump, not from Trump, not anywhere.
Oh!
Joe Biden wasn't allowed.
He couldn't have made the walk anyway.
There's no way the Biden administration would allow this to happen in the middle of the current election.
Right.
If this were a coherent story. So what this signifies to me is that you're seeing a massive anomaly in the story.
Look, I can't disagree with the comments. This definitely insinuates that Donald Trump is the commander in chief.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We'll get to that later too.
Yep.
Now, I thought this was over, right? And I really needed some sleep. So I almost bailed right here. I almost posted this. I'm like, there's no way this isn't going to get 5 million views. This is the most insane thing I've seen in months. And for some reason, I just kept watching. Wait for it, because I don't understand this full. I'll be completely transparent. I don't understand the full process of this. And I was looking for a salute, just like many people have said, right? There's handshakes from a Marine in white gloves, fully dressed with his accolades pinned to his chest. I don't understand this process because then there's another wreath. Now, what does that say?
Abbey Gate 13.
Yep. So maybe it's another.
Has there
I'm
ever
surprised
been
it doesn't-
ever been a wreath laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown by someone
Yes.
other than the
Hold that-
president?
Hold that
When-
thought.
Okay.
Hold it. Hold your thought. Because yes, I got an answer for you on that. It's
But
part
I
of
have
my
I have a qualifier though. Qualifier is by a previous POTUS without the current POTUS there.
Okay. I have an answer for you. Stand by.
Good.
Stroker, what we are watching is what happened this morning. Donald Trump laid the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier for the 13 soldiers that passed away in the botched Afghanistan pullout. This is current, happened just a few hours ago.
Yeah, which Trump has spoken out against vehemently as the biggest embarrassment in U.S. history.
Correct. Also, a pullout that he had planned for almost a decade.
Yep.
Where you guys, everybody should know that I would argue that we weren't given the truth. We all saw the 9/11, 1109 on the plane. We all saw the laughing, running, ecstatic Afghanis next to the plane. It was fifth generation warfare.
Is an army wreath-laying ceremony to be conducted on behalf of the Abbey Gate 13. Thank you.
This was about where I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to sleep. Why the heck isn't Joe or the Ho there? Why was
Given
this
the election situation? They should be.
unannounced?
They're giving Trump free publicity in official capacity during an election cycle, which is very strange.
This was
He's there alone.
where I screen recorded this was Australian news. It was also on CNN, but it wasn't on every network. It wasn't on RSBN.
Wow.
SkyNews.com is Australian. Joe,
This is a hell of a show, isn't it?
it is, right? Now this
Riveting.
is going to end here. So I ended up clipping it into two because it went so long. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm not sleeping. So this is the end of the first clip. Now let me just switch over and I'll go to the second one. Let me back up here. That was the first one. I'm sorry. Again, I'm on no sleep, so we'll find it here. Holy crap. Be paying attention. That's not it. That's not it.
Beans, I think there's a different reason Joe and
Here it is.
Kamala don't show their faces. Not just because it was botched.
I think so too.
Wow.
Unannounced. At least I didn't hear about it, and I pay attention very close.
Why is this happening so long after the event?
Was that 2 years ago or was that last year? Is it the first anniversary? I should know this. I don't know this.
Precinct. Oh,
I think that this is pointing back to Joe Biden because Joe Biden was not allowed to touch that. He did not do it the same way. He hovered
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't touch it.
It's the 3rd anniversary of the Abbey Gate.
3 years ago.
Wow.
I just keep thinking how many hundreds of times they rehearsed all these moves.
You guys cutting onions?
It is. It's emotional, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to break the emotion and repeat something we've already said multiple times. Where in the flying F is Joe Biden, and where in the flying F is Kamala?
What did you call her?
Kamala.
Yeah,
Kamala. Yeah. Yeah. From Trump's.
That B in there. And I think so. This starts to wrap, right? It stays very silent. So I'm gonna preempt what I want to go to next. I'm gonna ask you guys.
Who is that guy standing next to him? Though I'm sorry. Who?
That's not General Kellogg, but I will tell you that General Kellogg was part of. Oh, there's Kellogg right there. This is General Kellogg that he just told us. He just freaking told us, asked him to run pre-2016 election. Him and other generals. Maybe I should show that clip.
He said he had, was it 200 or 800 generals behind him? I think it was 200.
Well, the drops, if we want to really talk about Q team, talked about less than 10, 7 of which were non-military.
No, there was a speech that he gave where he said, it was during the debate. He said he had hundreds of generals behind him. It was either 200, 400, or 800. Yeah, which is very irregular.
It wouldn't surprise me that Tulsi's there, Song Babe, because her military intelligence background.
I'll tell you this. Do you want to know something that's like surface level? This is just speculation. This wanted to be seen because I posted the first one at, you know how we talk about the algorithms and white hats might be in control and social media, right? Mm-hmm. I posted this at, let's see here. Here, I'll just bring it up and show you guys what I'm looking at. I posted this at 9:46 a.m. This one's already got 830,000 views. And this one that I posted just before it, the first clip, was posted at 9:41 a.m. and it's already over 1 million.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
That's a lot of zeros.
This is not being silenced. This is being pushed.
Yeah.
All right.
Making everybody question what Trump's role is right now.
Right. There's no logical explanation.
We just don't know what it is.
Of course, there's the let me do this one step at a time.
Sorry, Enochel in the chat. I bought a Chicago dog from a food stand at a winery this weekend from a guy that looked just like Smart Paul. Paul's got a hot dog stand.
That's really funny. So, did you guys see when Trump talked about General Kellogg, who we just saw in that clip,
Mhm.
did you guys see that clip?
No, I haven't seen anything about this.
No,
Oh
I
my
don't-
gosh. Listen to
I
this,
heard
bro.
about it. I'd never.
Been a friend.
Let's start it over. So this is
GOP
the clip
Chairman
I'm talking
Jason Simmons, who's been a friend of ours for a long time. Where's Jason? Nice tall character right here.
Tall
Thank you very
character.
much, Jason. And somebody that's been with me from day one, he's a real general. You know, we have the real generals and we have the fake woke generals that did so poorly in Afghanistan, should have all been fired. But this is a real general, Keith Kellogg. Right, Keith? And this is a great group. It's good to see you, Keith. He's been with me from before day one, right? He said, that guy should run. We got to get him to run. I like those guys. They were here before I ran. You know, there's quite a few of them, too. We have the front row. Joe,
Whoa!
you know that?
Wow.
Chairman Jason Simmons, who's
Wow.
It seems like they're giving us the puzzle pieces to piece together what happened very, very slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, we see this in other ways too. Like Trump just in his one of his rallies, he put up that graph of the number of illegal immigrants coming in, and at the bottom of the graph, there's the arrow. Did you see that, Rambo? I know you did because I think you posted it.
Yes.
You posted it, Rambo.
Yeah. And after he had it on the screen, he said that arrow in the bottom, that was my last week in office. Well, what the hell does that mean? John and I have a weirder theory about what we think is actually going on, but it's interesting that Trump is putting that kind of messaging out there. It's as if they're giving you little hints. They're spoon feeding everybody hints to try to get them to piece together what they think is going on.
Can I just say something? For anybody watching, Paul and I have been wrong so many times. So we're probably wrong about this too, what we're going to talk about. But I don't.
And actually, later on, I'm going to bring up a theory about us being wrong, which is in itself good information, because when you can understand why you've been wrong, then it adds to your understanding of the overall situation. It makes you less likely to be wrong in the
All
future.
right.
So
Hold back though, because I want to finish this presentation, and then we'll get into that, because I'll discuss that with you guys too. Because I'm in it with you at this point, right? So look, Donald Trump saying that General Kellogg was there before he ran, asked him to run, and there was many more. He wasn't the only one. Is a Q proof. That's a freaking Q proof. You guys all remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
The crossing of the Delaware. Do you remember the Post? Does POTUS have the goods on most of the bad actors? Was Trump asked to run for president? Why and by who? Do you know how this drop ends? Something that I've talked about many, many times on the show, I'm sure with you guys. 2016 couldn't have possibly went the way it did without some sort of protection, right?
Yeah.
Well, the drops literally stated, was Trump asked to run for president with assurances made to prevent tampering? How is POTUS always 5 steps ahead? Who is helping POTUS? Well, I'd go so far as to say General Kellogg's one of those people.
which post is that, Rambo?
This
Which
is
post
post number
and what's the date?
14,
10/31,
2017.
Okay, later on in the show, I'm gonna refer to this and blow your mind.
All right, I'll pull it back up then. All right, so now I have the part I want to show just before we get into your stuff is there was a press conference that happened shortly after this unannounced laying of the wreath by Donald Trump, not the president or the vice president, the literally the Republican nominee against the president and the vice president. He did a press conference afterwards. Now I'm going to ask you guys, I have a few clips that I pulled from it, or would you rather just watch the whole thing and stop when we hear something fun? It's like 20 minutes.
Let's just watch the whole thing and start and stop.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. You guys give some comment. You know what? I want to show this first too, though. All right. This is, before I do that, I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to say what I have to say about it. I want you guys to talk while I pull up the full thing. So, CAG, our very good friend CAG sent me this morning when he saw that I posted it. And he said that, here's part of that logic that could lead you out of this being anything other than insanity, right? George Bush was a former president when he laid the wreath. And that was Cag's point. And after I read this, my point is, yes, a former president laid the wreath during the 18th, what's it called? The 18th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. George Bush was president when that happened.
Yep.
So now Donald Trump is laying the wreath during a ceremony that is honoring 13 soldiers that died during an Afghanistan pullout that's supposed to be Joe Biden's.
Makes you ask that question. What is his role? What is actually going on? They're giving you these tiny little hints saying, hey, look, this doesn't quite make sense. Think.
Yeah. All right, give me one more second. I found it. I'm going to send it over. Dude, this morning's been so hectic. There's no way I could have possibly put all this together. I didn't even sleep. All right, so let's get over here. We'll play the whole thing for everybody that's hanging out. Hey, and if you guys aren't aware, please come over and hang out and watch me, Dave, from News Treason on Captain Kyle's show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central Time. I believe Captain Kyle's on Central Time. I'm on Eastern, so I'm going to say it that way. But here is the press conference. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's full.
Buy something. They're going to show me something.
Full of change. All right. We'll just watch the whole thing. Oh, I hope it stops. Okay, we're good. Ready?
Yeah.
It's 16 minutes, and he only speaks for about 12 or 13 of them. Shoot, it's gonna mess with me.
Hello, everybody. Oh, there they are. They're the important ones.
I might have to do the clips. YouTube's giving me trouble. Let's just do that. I'm not gonna mess with this. This show is way too important to have the feds get involved. We'll do it clip wise. So here's the first one that I pulled. Let's do it this way.
Ain't nobody got time for feds.
No, ain't nobody got time for that.
Let's do it with another network. I want to do it. You know, I won because of debates. Ask Biden. I won because of debates. I want to do debates, but she, the head of ABC, is her comrade's best friend. You know,
Joe.
They like.
Joe, did he say he won because of the debates with Biden?
No, he said he wants debates.
Wants. Okay.
Now, listen, the reason I pulled this clip is it was the very first time he references Donna Brazile. Donna Brazile was the news anchor that gave Hillary Clinton all the answers to the questions in the first debate. It was a large talking point for Donald Trump when it happened. Now, the reason this stuck out to me was because I have been preaching this theory that I have that the drops are counting down in reverse. And if they're counting down in reverse and we're running out of time on the scale that Q gave us, which was note the past 2 years, note the next 5, right? If that early 2025 date is accurate, then we're running out of time, right? Election aside. So I believe that if the drops are counting down backwards, that Hillary Clinton is going to have to be pushed back out into the spotlight, exposed, and given what Donald Trump has told us in many speeches were criminal trials. He has slowly here recently tried to separate himself from Hillary, right? Beautiful, beautiful Hillary. We don't call her crooked anymore. I don't like to use that name for people doubles. When it was up to me to press charges on her or not, make the decision to actually push charges on her, I decided not to. right? So I am of the belief that what we're going to see happen isn't going to be made to look optically like it was Donald Trump that did it. However, maybe someone on their side or the Supreme Court, whatever it might be, would push the issue. But Hillary Clinton would have to get pushed back out into the spotlight for that to happen. And I see it as a countdown 3, 2, 1, 0, game over. I don't honestly think there's any other logic to the drops. It would be the most amazing Q proof ever. Q would not have to come out and say, I did this, or have a question and answer session. None of it. It would be the ultimate Q proof for Hillary Clinton. Go ahead.
Q just has to be seen when looking back in history as having been correct and legitimate.
When is the 30th this year?
Q already is that, in my opinion. But how do you show the rest? Yeah. You either don't give a crap that the rest of the planet knows, which is very possible, or you put an exclamation point on it without ever admitting it. And it's kind of undeniable.
I think they're going to tie up hundreds of things, and it's going to be absolutely irrefutable for anybody who looks, but that doesn't mean most people will look.
Logically, that makes sense. I feel like it's already happening.
Yeah.
All right, so let's finish this clip out.
Husbands and the whole thing. What kind of a deal is that? I want to have a fair debate. And they can ask me tough questions. I don't mind. I think I've heard them all from you. I hear them every day. But I think it's very unfair. The single worst network for unfairness, I think, worse than CNN, worse than NBC, which is really hard to believe. And CBS is probably the best of the group. Fox is the best, but of the other side. As an example, today we had a celebration of some great people, some great people who passed away, who were killed in the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan.
There you go.
An incompetent president with incompetent people leading it, and every one of those people should have been fired. He never fires anybody. Those generals, Milley, and every one of them should have been fired. They took the military out first. If I asked, do we have any children in the room? Because if I asked a child, who should go first? They would say everything but the military. They took the military out first, and then it was a bloodbath, and it was a horrible thing.
Okay, so that was the first clip. Let me keep going here. Some of these are really interesting. He just emphasized, though. You spoke up there, Paul, when it happened. Joe Biden's responsible for this pullout where these 13 soldiers died.
That's how it appears, yes.
So again, why is Donald Trump doing this?
In order to make people ask what's going on. That's why the PSYOP is there, is to get people to think for themselves.
All right, here's clip number 2.
The country, and where is our president? We don't even have a president. We have a fascist person running.
Oh, the second half of this show is going to be so delicious.
He went to California for a vacation because they threw him a
juicy
the party.
The Quedic.
You're going to go to the White House? No, he went to Delaware to take another vacation. And you got Russia over there with like nuclear threats. We got to have a president. We got to have a real president that's respected. It's disgraceful.
I already know where you guys are going. Hold on. I feel like
I don't think you do.
I do. I know you guys.
Without having heard it, you can't comprehend the brilliance.
Okay. All right. Well,
it's mind-bending.
I want everybody, I'm going to play this one again. Listen from the very first word until the end and remember it, because these guys are going to tie it up with it's funny how God works, man. I'm telling you, he dropped this bomb in our lap and it coincides exactly with what you guys want to present.
It's precise.
Yeah. Watch this.
The country. And where is our president? We don't even have a president.
Bing.
Fascist person running.
Bing, bing, bong.
And we have a president who's not even around. He went to California for a vacation because they threw him essentially out of the party. And then he came back home and I said, oh, is he going to go to the White House? No, he went to Delaware to take another vacation. And you got Russia over there with like nuclear threats. We got to have a president. We got to have a real president that's respected. So as to your question, I think it's disgraceful. And I think ABC is a disgrace. I think having Donna Brazile sitting on that panel, she's the one that gave the answers and the questions to Hillary Clinton before a debate. I think ABC should be shut out. I'd much rather do it on NBC. I'd much rather do it on CBS, frankly. I think CBS is very unfair, but the best of the group. And certainly I'd do it on Fox. I'd even do it on CNN. I thought CNN treated us very fairly the last time.
Any thoughts yet?
No, none of this surprises me.
No,
I love that it lead into what you guys want to talk about. All right, here we
There's
go.
no spoon.
2 or 3 more.
President, okay? We cannot have a dummy. And the people from Vietnam agree with that.
We cannot have a dummy for president. That was what I was trying to catch there, as I was very tired.
Yeah. Almost like it's a puppet.
We cannot
Like you're watching a show.
from
here.
Vietnam agree with that.
That's the same one. Listen to this one.
When I was gone, and we have this guy that doesn't know he's alive. And when that happened, Afghanistan happened, which was so tragic and so incompetent. Putin said, these people are highly overrated. He would have never gone in. If you didn't have the Afghanistan, he would have never gone in.
He doesn't know he's alive again.
Notice how he doesn't tell you why.
Why he doesn't know he's alive?
No, he said Putin would have never gone in, but he doesn't say why. He leaves that up to your imagination, and that's a misdirection. I think the actual reason is completely different than what people assume.
I think everything he says is a misdirection.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, some of it's literally like, we don't have a president. I think that is literally true.
Yep.
Well, when he says he's shot, I think that's literally true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how do you take a picture of somebody? You shoot a picture.
How do you give
It's a
him
camera
best
shot. Well, yeah, but I mean, in this case, if you're making a movie, you shoot the scenes. Biden is shot.
God, why you gotta be so smart, bro?
It's just language. It's just language, man.
That's a great point, because that wasn't a recent one, but I made a post recently about how, you know what? Go ahead. You guys give me your thoughts. I'm going to pull one more clip. I want to show everybody that one. So you don't think that shot means, okay, look, how do you coincide he's shot if you think they're filming with he doesn't know he's alive?
Well, who's he? Is it the personality? Is it the character he's playing? Because characters in movies don't exist. They aren't alive. They're being played by someone else.
Being played by
the Biden you see. Yeah, the Biden you see isn't alive. It's just it's a figment of your imagination. It's being played by a character.
Almost, I guess, close to 90% of the vote. What's going on here? This is getting to be crazy, right? This is getting to be pretty wild. And it's a great honor, I'll tell you, because we have to let them know we're coming for them. We're coming on November 5th, Joe's. Crooked, sleepy Joe. Crooked, sleepy. I like that.
Wait, did you guys hear that?
Joe's he's a sleeper.
Joe's, plural.
Yeah, multiple actors.
Yeah.
They're putting on a show.
Almost, I guess, close to 90% of the vote. What's going on here? This is getting to be crazy, right? This is getting to be pretty wild. And it's a great honor, I'll tell you, because we have to let them know we're coming for them. We're coming on November 5th, Joe's.
Let them
Crooked,
know.
sleepy Joe.
We're coming for them, Joe.
Crooked, sleepy. I like that. I like that. Crooked, sleepy. Maybe we'll call them both. You know, I took the name off Hillary Crooked. I wanted to use it for Joe because I thought it was very accurate. But I got rid of Sleepy, and Sleepy was good. But how about Crooked, Sleepy Joe? You know, you could do a double. That's what you got. Next up, as you know, almost, I guess, close to 90%.
Did you hear that last line?
Yeah, you could do a double.
Because that's what you got.
Yeah, and you know, when you have a sleeper agent, it's a person who doesn't get revealed until later. So the reason he's Sleepy Joe is because he's a sleeper. The reason he's crooked is because the character he's playing is crooked.
Okay. And it can also be taken that he's crooked because he's laying down and he's sleepy because he's dead. The dude's taking a permanent nap.
It could be.
Could be.
I mean, just don't make any assumptions. Don't decide it's one way or the other. Keep all of the possibilities in your head.
Okay,
and keep refining it.
But there's another line we're not considering. Joe Biden, it's not him. Joe doesn't know he's alive. He's got like half his head left.
His acting, I mean, that fits the narrative that he has some sort of cognitive decline. I mean, and the character that we're seeing as Joe does appear to have a cognitive decline. I think they're just playing with the messaging, trying to get people to wake up.
Welcome, Shop Girl. Sorry, I was trying to read her comment. Yeah, they sure are playing in a fifth generation warfare with our emotions, and that's what fifth generation warfare is. How does it make you feel? There's absolutely multiple audiences watching this. You have the insane extreme left, you have the insane extreme right, whatever the mainstream media might paint that to be. You have most of the people that land somewhere in the middle, as we have coined them, normies or whatever, that believe, you know, they all believe the news is fake, but then they run around quoting the news and they call people like us crazy for digging just a little bit deeper and attempting to connect dots like the drops have told us, right? Only Anons will appreciate. It is a war out here.
It's a war for your mind. I'm a veteran of the psychic wars.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, that you have all of this stuff that is so seemingly inconsistent from the start of Biden's supposed term, with all of the inconsistencies in the with the inauguration and the cannon salute, all of that stuff, and it's just carried on through. And now I think they're making it so obvious now. Well, it's hard to say. I can't get into the mind of the seagrass to know what they're seeing and what they're not seeing, but it's getting to be so obvious. I don't think everybody has to wake up in the way that we think we're awake.
No,
I think the majority of the people are going to believe when the media starts to spit the truth. The seagrass will just feel that way, and they'll be fine with it.
Most of the population is going to believe exactly what mainstream media says.
Yep.
Do you guys want to answer that? I'll start. I don't want to hear what you guys have to say. I feel like I'm coming late to the party. If you just mean specifically the show, go back to the start and watch from the beginning. But if you mean as far as this whole Great Awakening process is concerned, I would say don't worry about it. That's my honest opinion. Everybody in this movement has their own process, and no one's process is the same. For me personally, I was directed by God through my father to even try to figure out why he said on his deathbed to go vote for Donald Trump. And it sent me down this path where I ended up burying my head in rabbit holes for the last 4 years. More than that, 8 years. Holy crap. Man, time flies. I've been burying my head in this rabbit hole. I only just put myself out there publicly to be a part of this thing on a more public level in the last 4 years. But I've been trying to figure out that question, why my dad said that, for 8 years. And you know what? I ended up in places that I don't necessarily agree with now. And that's my process. And I think everyone here's the one key piece of advice that I would give, and then I want to hear if you guys agree. Don't judge people for their experience and their research or their emotion or their critical thought. Enjoy the process of having the conversation and respect and love each other, as long as in the end what you're trying to do is motivate each other to help stand up together and take this freaking country and this country back and win our freedom back, and then and in turn save the world. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, people are going to need to feel that they had a part in this to make this whole thing. And what I mean by that is that we have to take our country back. Yeah, that's true on one level.
I think people have to feel like they took their country back.
Yeah, because going back to, I'm going to paraphrase the quote, Thomas Paine. That which is too cheap is esteemed little. Which is gained too cheaply is esteemed very little. Meaning, if somebody gives you, look, I'm going to use this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but if you go to an Indian reservation, right, you see these houses that are so run down, they're not kept up. They were given those houses. Now, I'm not saying that there's a whole lot of other factors there. My point is, though, if you give somebody something and they don't have to work for it, they don't care about it much. And I look at the generation of idiots now that are in college, and they've had the benefit of some really easy times, and it's made them really weak. Like, they don't understand the value of freedom of speech, hence all the bullshit about hate speech. It's funny, my daughter is starting her freshman year, and she called me this morning and she said, "Dad, we've got a 2-hour part of our orientation today that's about DEI." And I just said, get a thick skin and, play on your phone or do something.
Ignore.
Just ignore it.
It's good fatherly advice.
Yeah, I mean, it's so dumb. She hates it, and she's always been. Bram, I don't think you've met her. Paul, maybe you've talked to her. I don't know.
She was on a call with Beer a long time ago, and I saw her, and I may have interacted with her trivially, but no, I mean, most of what I know about her is from you. And even from that, I have the deepest respect. She seems like a real cannonball. Yeah.
She's definitely her own girl, marches to her own drum. Not meaning that she's odd, but that she just doesn't look around to look at other people to validate her in her opinion. So anyway,
she has few external dependencies.
Yes. My point is, though, that generation, and even frankly Gen X, I mean, we never really had to fight for anything. I think I told you guys I was in Croatia about a month ago with my daughter. And what really struck me about that country was everywhere people had Croatian flags. People loved their country. And I was struck by that. We were there for 10 days, and it was about the 7th or 8th day. Maybe it's the 7th day. We got to Dubrovnik, and we went up above Dubrovnik. There's a fort, an old Napoleonic fort. And there were all these monuments to these guys that had died in like 92, 93 in the homeland wars when Bosnia and Serbia, I think, were trying to make a greater Serbia and take over Croatia. They shelled the shit out of Dubrovnik, and you had all of these young guys, Croatian guys that fought for their country, and a lot of them died. But that's when it struck me. I'm like, that's why these guys have so much national pride, because they all had to fucking fight for it. They had to put their lives on the line. And these guys are all my age. Like, I'm seeing they're born in 1970. I'm like, wow. Like these would be my peers. And so that really struck me. And I think that's a critical component of how, when this thing is done, whatever that means, when we're over the hump, people are going to believe that they had a role in taking back our country, even if some people didn't, and even if the role that the people who really were active, even if it really wasn't that big, it's going to feel like it's big. I don't mean to be obtuse about this. I'm just
no. Can I draw a parallel though, John? You made me think of look. Obviously, I look at everything through my own perspective, right? It's my life that I'm living right now. It's my experience that I relate to everything that I talk to about with amazing people like you two. And you talked about how Gen X didn't have to fight the way that you're talking about in your story with the people you met, or the story that you came across overseas. But have you noticed that a lot of people that are that would consider themselves part of this movement have been through major life struggles, like for me, addiction, right? Homelessness, and all the stuff you guys have heard me talk about ad nauseum. It it felt like a fight. And when we found out that 3-letter agencies and our own government were responsible for at least a large portion of that, I think it makes sense that so many people that survived that, because many didn't, right? We lost easily just as many people as if you were to go to war. And I'm not saying the two are the same. I'm just drawing that parallel. I couldn't be more grateful for people that laid their lives down or pledged service and allegiance to our flag. It is not the same at all. I'm only drawing the parallel that in hindsight, it felt like a war and we lost many people. And we found out that globalists and the government and 3-letter agencies and intelligence agencies were responsible for at least a large portion of that. And maybe that's why people that have been through that gravitate so much towards this movement, because it also could be societal. Maybe it's the same way on the other side, but I'm not on the other side. I'm only on this side. And I've noticed that a lot of people, I'm not alone. And that's why I talk about it so openly, because so many people have been through that. So just maybe, is it possible that there's an aspect of what you're talking about and we just don't realize it because it's not, guys like me didn't put on fatigues and go train and fight for their country. However, there was definitely a bit of a war beneath the surface that we went through.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think I agree with that. What I think is interesting about this national pride that the Croatians had, they just about lost their country. I mean, it was that close.
Yeah.
And had the
and they remember it.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it was 30 years ago. They're what, a generation and a half away, and it's still fresh and clear. They fought on their soil. Last time that happened in the U.S., I mean, forget the Civil War; those were two same side stuff. But it's 1812. Was that really people have not experienced the imminent threat of losing our country the way that those Croatians did, for sure. And are we going to get there? Maybe it's going to seem like that.
Well, also just making a point about going back to the original, the original question was specifically about being awake, and what does that mean? I think you have to take all the different demographics of the types of people that are out there, and this whole thing appears, at least to me, to be designed to address every single demographic and make them all be, quote, awake in their own level of understanding. And so when John and I talk about how we're awake, that's going to be different than I think most Anons, when this is all over with. They'll have a different version of awake that we would look at and say, well, that's not fully awake, but it's awake enough, right? And so you have, I don't even know how many demographics we're talking about. Is it tens of demographics? Is it hundreds? Is it thousands? I don't know. But the hardcore liberals have a different mindset and a different view of the world, a different looking glass, if you will. Different things are important to them than the hardcore MAGA people or hardcore Trump supporters or whatever. And everybody across every demographic spectrum is going to have distortions in their perception of reality because of what's important to them and because of their own personal experience and because of what they see. And so there is no one awake that fits all.
Yep.
And there's never going to be, because people are different, and that's a good thing. We have diversity, we have variety. And I'm not talking about DEI diversity. I'm talking about actual, just different people with different opinions. It's okay to disagree with somebody. I mean, last night I was at a bar and I watched two people have a vehement argument over the shape of the earth. And they were both looking at me, trying to get me to side with one of them. And I just sat there with that Willy Wonka look going. And then I pointed out, I said, you realize neither one of you has a reason to care what shape the earth is. You don't design GPS devices, and you don't design long bridges. So
on the flip side of that, no, but hold on, and I don't want to get into the flat earth debate, okay? But we have been programmed emotionally, 5th generation warfare, to grasp onto something that we care about so deeply that we're willing to fight for it, right? And this goes for every subject,
yes,
flat Earth included.
Right. But the thing is, pick your battles, and what are you really fighting for? And most of the stuff that people are fighting about in the information space is relatively irrelevant to what's actually going on. Like whether or not Trump had a certain policy or said a certain thing doesn't really matter about what Trump would do in office. Right? You could make the argument, you could make the inference there, but there's different people are going to perceive that different things are important, and it's okay to disagree on those as long as the backbone of what everybody's doing is moving in the right direction.
To me, one of the critical things is, you just made the point, Paul. So you have people that are arguing about shit that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the Earth is shaped like a rainbow dildo or
a banana
or a donut or a banana or a sphere. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Not to how my life is going to turn out and with the things I'm going to do. But the things that do matter are, well, to me anyway, understanding things like our Constitution, understanding laws, understanding those things that are black and white and factually discoverable. People are still arguing about this shit. Like, I'm going to say it again. I probably said it on 4 shows. Smith-Mundt Act.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean the shit that the people are talking about. It was never a thing about banning propaganda in the United States. It was never about that. And the repeal of it meant nothing to that. Go back and read the original act in 1948. All it is, it's about U.S. propaganda created in the U.S. for foreign audiences, and that they didn't want that to come back to the U.S. It doesn't say anything about
from that. By the way, from that specific department of the government, it only limits one specific department that was created by the Smith-Mundt Act. It doesn't limit the rest of the government at all. In other words, it's never been illegal for the U.S. government to use propaganda on its own citizens. Full stop. And these people pushed this around, and all you have to do is read the original act from 1948. But everybody spends all this time arguing about it. So literally what they're doing is wasting their time, and they're so emotionally invested in this argument and being right that they can't see that it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong on that. It just isn't an issue.
Yep.
Hold that thought, because I want to back you up just a second. I also want to address that point. Let me first of all say thank you to John Henry Bonzo for the $10 Rumble rant. My God, I believe, I adore, I hope, and I love thee. I ask pardon for those who do not believe, do not adore, do not hope, and do not love thee. God bless you and your families. Press on. Hooah. My man, I appreciate you supporting the show. And I do see all the gold pills coming in over there. I don't want to interrupt, but I will absolutely say thank you to you. I think there's only been a few. Your boy Death, thank you very much for the can. I haven't heard this info anywhere else. Thank you for not sleeping and keeping us awake. Yeah, my man. And Ghost Rider with the can. Thank you, buddy. Absolutely miss you, bro. It's good to see you. Okay, I'm going to back you up because we brought up the flat earth thing, right? And I don't want to get into the debate. And we are discussing the difference between what truly matters and an emotional stance on something, which is when people believe something matters. Especially, somebody actually mentioned it, and I was already going to bring it up. Where'd you go? Hex Girl actually brought up the same point I was going to make, right? So again, I'm not trying to start the flat earth debate, but merely I want to bring the point up to why people get so emotionally tied. Hey, look, if you tie God to anything, people that are spiritually grounded or have a deep rooted faith in Christianity, Jesus Christ, God himself, a subject will become something that matters to them, right?
Yeah.
And I've
been the same thing about
position,
Buddhism or Islam or any of them.
Right. And I've been in the position because I've look, like I said, I've been down every rabbit hole. Flat Earth is one of them. I can debate you on either side. I can debate you on the flat Earth side, and I can debate you on the globe Earth side, and I can even debate you on the Earth is much larger than what it is that we're being told. Right? There's many angles to this, but the main point that Hex Girl is bringing up would have been my argument to it doesn't matter. Well, if people believe that God and the Bible are being hidden from them and that it's Satan doing that, then all of the sudden something that you can dismiss as doesn't mean anything means a whole hell of a lot.
Let me add almost the same argument, but from a different angle. And basically what I'm going to do is tell you why I think the flat Earth argument is there and how it functions in the PSYOP. Is because the argument that is what I would call a tag-along rider, in other words, to make the argument that the Earth is flat, you also have to justify it by saying you've been lied to. That's why it's there. It's because it makes everybody question, have I been lied to? That's what all of the different arguments in the PSYOP have in common. They're all predicated on the fact that you've been lied to.
Yep.
They're trying to get people to think for themselves and understand that there's misinformation and lies all over the place, whether it comes from the government or from an NGO or from George Soros or Bill Gates or, any of these characters. Klaus Schwab wants you to eat the bugs, right? It all boils down to, are you being lied to? And the only way to detect if you're being lied to is to think. You have to think for yourself. Otherwise, you're susceptible to believing lies. So what better way to do it than cause 100 arguments that don't actually matter in reality, but it gets everybody emotionally charged. So the PSYOP guys are using that emotional cognitive relationship to get you to think. And the people who are having the arguments don't even realize that they're being manipulated by the PSYOP guys to teach them to think.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It really is beautiful. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Right, but doesn't that make you think differently about the flat Earth argument? Because at the end of the day, unless you're doing GPS or civil engineering for long bridges, you have no practical reason to care. It will never affect your life. What shape
unless your God is being threatened.
Well, okay, right.
Sure.
In which case, do you see what I'm saying? This is why an argument that, look, I mean, not offend anyone.
Still the point I made, even if you're defending it because of your spiritual beliefs, you still have to answer the question, am I being lied to?
Right. Ascension.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because the difference between people who are in a dream state, row, row, row your boat, life is but a dream. The difference between being in a dream state and being in reality is, in order to be in reality, you have to understand why you understand that it's reality. In a dream state, just stuff happens and you don't really think about it.
Can I give another example to get us off the flat Earth thing? The God being threatened thing. So you guys all know, we've all had this debate at this point, right? It's kind of like getting tired at this point. But the assassination attempt, people go back and forth, right? Me and somebody that's become a very good friend in Absolute 1776, he kind of sees it all the same way that I do. However, he looks at it as blasphemy that God could be used as the reason that Donald Trump was saved. So it's almost like that flat Earth thing, where the only truly valid emotional response to the flat Earth argument, when someone believes that it's God driven, kind of makes everything else null and void, is the same way he's looking at the assassination attempt, where it's blasphemy, and he doesn't want to believe that Q or an operation would blaspheme God's name to show us the truth.
Well,
it's an interesting debate.
Well, you just pointed something out, is that people have different opinions about God, right? And I would also point out that like an emotional response is not thinking. Mm-hmm. Thinking is rational. It's reason. It's deduction. It's logic. As soon as emotion comes into it, you've stopped thinking.
Can I get you to hang out with Kim for a while? I'd really need her to hear that lesson.
You don't want to have this conversation with women.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta shake that imagery away. I mean,
I just lost, a whole bunch of people with that.
I'm going
But
to
I
tell you
don't
right now.
care.
It's
You
not
don't
all
want to.
women. It's not women. Just tend to go more the emotional way. I'm tap dancing.
Yeah.
I know I am.
I'm going to
But it
tell you
isn't
right
thinking.
now. The worst thing you can do when someone tells you, "I miss you. Why do you choose doing the show or watching a Trump rally or whatever over me?" And you say, "We have all of these days we scheduled. I need you to put your emotions aside and think logically. I am doing this because it is helping save the planet, and I have an ultimate goal of not having to go to the swing shift job. And I need you to take your emotions and put them aside and understand that it's the worst. It's the worst thing you could possibly say to a woman."
Yeah. Yeah. We should get off that subject, or we're just going to get hate mail.
Yeah, we're gonna get in trouble.
It's
Yeah.
like
Well, I mean,
when you say,
what I would point out. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can't say anything like that. Like my wife, right? I tell her, she's like, we had some landscaping stuff done, and it's done. It's dusted, like concrete poured, all this stuff. And she's like, I really think we needed to do something different, whatever it was. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We shoulda, woulda, coulda. And she'll continue on with talking about, well, yes, I can't believe we didn't. Why didn't we do that? We didn't do it. We kind of got to move on, honey. It's done. Yeah. And so for me to say though, hey, you know what? I know you're feeling emotional about this. Let this one go. Yeah, that wouldn't go over.
Well, the way I would look at it is, this is harsh, but sit across a chessboard and say, okay, I'll play logically and you play emotionally. Just make the moves that feel good.
I've done this. It doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
No.
Feeling doesn't get you to truth.
No, and it's not just, I don't mean to confine it just to women. Why am I going back to this topic? Because there are, well, look,
everybody has a different level of emotionality.
Yeah, it's a different kind, but it's still an emotional thing. It means that something has a hold on your psyche you don't want to let go of. We've used this one in the past, Paul, where we're like, well, what if Barack Obama is not a bad guy? What if he's a white hat, a black hat?
Yeah.
And
you get an emotional wall of oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. People running at you emotionally, going, and they're just not thinking about it rationally. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, this isn't specific to women. Every male and every female has a different level of rationality versus emotionality, and there's nothing wrong with emotion. Yeah, emotions are valuable. Like to be human is to have emotion. You can't get away with it, or you can't get away from it. But if you want to actually understand reality, emotion doesn't help you. It just forms opinion. And so
the drops actually say emotions do not affect critical thought. I think I'm paraphrasing off the top of my head, but I want to address that too. Everybody has their own process, right? We're joking about relationships because we're all men and we're hetero. So, right. So the people that we deal with in a relationship are female, right? I'm not saying that it is specific to male or female most of the time, but I'm not really saying that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think it has to do with being hetero. I mean, there are like sexual preference is just a preference. It's an opinion.
Agreed. Yeah. If you're not messing with kids, I don't care what your preference is. It's a human thing, I think, is what we're talking about, right? We're joking. Yeah. We're joking to a level. But everybody has their process. So I absolutely believe that there are women that have worked on through this process of the Great Awakening where they are able to separate their emotions from their critical thought, right? Anybody can feel an emotion. Everybody feels an emotion. It's the ability to be able to take a step back, process the emotion, and then address whatever it is at hand.
Joe, during this whole process of all the stuff that John and I have figured out and deduced, some of our conclusions we hated it, and we'd go, man, I hate this, but oh, it's the only thing that makes sense. I hate the fact that it looks the most rational that this is what's going on, but the data says this is what's going on. And so we had to get over our emotional repulsion of the idea. But the thing is, if you want to understand reality, get good at doing that.
Yeah. So a great example, Paul calls me whenever it was, and it was a Saturday morning, and you're like, what if Hillary Clinton is a white hat playing a role her entire life? And I remember going, no fucking way, man. No way. No, I don't know. No. And it was like 2 minutes later. No, it was a couple
2 minutes. Now we're down to 2 minutes.
It was a couple hours that I had to call him back and go, you know what? That's a possibility. That is a possibility. But I want to hate her so much.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you want to hate, Hannibal Lecter for being a bad guy.
Hitler.
Good evening, Clarice.
Yeah, Hitler. By the way, can I make a point about Hitler? Everybody's got an opinion on Hitler, and there's people out there who are saying Hitler was right, and there's people out there who are saying Hitler's a terrible bad guy. What do you think the percentage of people who've read Mein Kampf is?
Very small.
Hitler wrote a 1,000-page book about what he believes. How many of those people who have such a strong emotional opinion of Hitler have read his book?
But you know why?
What?
We were told that those are evil words. No one wants to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some guy said.
Yeah.
That's not living in reality. If you want to see reality, look at the reality and don't listen to what some guy said. That's what the PSYOP is teaching everybody, and that's what the ascension process is about.
Did
you getting you
Roseanne?
To stop believing what you hear.
Did you ever hear what Roseanne said about Hitler?
Yeah, I actually heard the recent thing she was going off about how well, recently she just said that the Holocaust just didn't happen. No Jews died. Yeah, I mean, I saw that and I was like, yeah. I mean, see, in my world, I don't know what happened. I know there's a lot of factions saying things. I know there's been a ton of propaganda on it. Too much, by the way. Okay, we don't know what happened. But when somebody goes out there and says, right, and when somebody goes out there like Roseanne and says, well, no Jews died, I go, that is exactly the kind of statement that makes emotional people either go, yeah, she's right, or no, she's a horrible person. But the bottom line is neither one of those sides knows. All it is some guy said. Everybody says, oh, but I have sauce. Do you? Somebody created that sauce.
Bro, not only did she say it didn't happen, she then went even a step further and said that 6 million Jews probably should be killed because of what we're facing today.
Holy shit.
You take an entire class. I know a lot of Jewish people, and they're all fine people. Like, you're just going to take a class of people. Well, why don't we just talk about black people then? I mean, why don't we talk about Asian people? As soon as you take an entire class of people and say they all have this characteristics and deserve death, like, that is so obtuse. So we're all human.
So it makes me wonder, though, again, Paul and I think that we're watching a movie, right? So maybe Roseanne is just playing a role to inject more shit into the narrative.
To make people argue about it and then realize that A, it probably may not matter, and B, oh God, now I'm thinking. People are going to start thinking without even realizing why they're thinking. That's why this is so beautiful.
It's like Field of Dreams. They're not going to realize why they're just going to go. They're just going to go to the field in the corn. That was dumb. Sorry.
Well, I think most. Yeah, I won't even say that.
By the way,
I will smile.
Mein Kampf is really hard to read. The words, it's heady. It really makes you think. And I think even if people wanted to pick it up, I don't know how many people would get through it.
Yeah, it has a high vocabulary because the guys who translated it are very, very academically brilliant, large vocabularies, and the phraseology is strange because a lot of it is translated with the meter and grammar from German. So it's a very strange read.
Yeah, there are. I think there's at least 6 different translations available. What was the one we read? Hickox and something.
Yeah, something like that. It's supposed to be the best, and it has a lot of stuff in it that none of the other translations have because the translators just edited it out. Which, why are they editing stuff out of someone's book?
I wish I knew German, because if you could read that in German, I'll bet you that there's stuff in there that the translation, even the best translation, left out.
Didn't
And
we go through?
By the way, did Hitler even write it?
No, I don't think so.
Somebody else read it.
Actually, the single most surprising thing to me in that book was a footnote that the authors put in that was specifically about the word Aryan. And it was a fairly elaborate footnote that said that nobody knows what Hitler meant when he said Aryan. That etymologists and historians had tried to pin down, and anthropologists had tried to pin down what he meant when he said Aryan, and no one knows. So all these people running around saying Aryan race, yeah, Hitler says that all over the book. But there's a footnote in there that says, nobody actually knows what this means.
Right. I mean,
that's hilarious.
Do you take it to mean those peoples that emigrated from the near India, around India? And I mean, maybe.
Yeah, or Persia. But Hitler never says that. He draws a lot of inferences to the northern Germans, so the Nordic Germans. But he also never says that that's what it is. He never defines it. He just says, "Oh, these are our people, and these people are better than everybody else, so we have to fight for our race," right? Which I think, well, it doesn't matter what I think. The original reason I brought this up was that you have all these people, whether it's about Hitler or whether it's about the Smith-Mundt Act or whether it's about flat Earth or whether it's about any other topic you pick, almost all of them are making factual assertions that they don't actually know. They heard from some guy. Even if you have declassified CIA documents, that still doesn't mean it's real because the CIA is in the business of lying.
Like that disclosure that came out with the JFK stuff in December of 22, I think it was, where it said that Kennedy had a meeting in 1964 with.
Yeah, we don't know if that's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote an article about this on sapioplex.substack.com. It's called "On the Importance of Sauce."
Yeah.
And basically, what it says is the people that we're dealing with fake history. I mean, Ingersoll Lockwood is a fantastic example. Allegedly, in the 1890s, there's a story called Baron's Magic Train Ride or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's about Baron Trump, right? And it allegedly
dog or something.
Yeah, and so it appears to predict Baron Trump. But the thing is, if you go to the Library of Congress, it's there. And if you go to the websites, there's all these claims about it, and you can see copies of the book and blah, blah, blah.
Bro,
blah.
It doesn't just predict it. They live at the freaking same address as Trump Tower's at.
Yeah. And so my point is, which is more likely? Because we're dealing with factions that can do things like put shit in the Library of Congress, and they can fake document.
Yep.
Which is more likely, that you're being lied to, or that somebody magically predicted Baron Trump and all these things?
Or
it's way more likely that you're being lied to.
Yeah, or time.
Right, time travel is great. Yeah, we're all traveling in time at the same rate forward in time. Other than that, what the hell? Almost all of these things people are talking about boil down to somebody said something.
We're the worst at this. So we're like going on a tangent. We're never going to get to your point. So hold on. Let me say, first of all, thank you to JFanon. JFanon, who will be here Wednesday, by the way. Sean and Drunk Pinata, I believe. I don't know. I haven't gotten confirmation. But I believe JFanon and Drunk Pinata will be here on Wednesday. And he just dropped like a whole freaking mess of cookies. Tried to start a cookie fight over there by himself over there on build.net. Thank you very, very much, brother. I can't wait to hang out with you on Wednesday. And can I play just for shock value? Can we play the Roseanne clip quick? And then I want to hear what you guys wanted to present.
She's
John,
Jewish.
I hear she is Jewish, right?
Yeah.
I think she was raised Jewish.
All right. John, have you heard this before?
No.
bro.
No, it's great.
It's,
Going in raw.
it's ridiculous. This, like, when I get shocked from this, it's not because she hurt my feelings, but it's because I'm very aware of what society feels. And this is the cringiest thing you've ever heard. Okay. Listen.
So it wasn't rigged.
Of course not.
Yeah.
36 counties have 81 million people in them.
Yeah.
See? That's the truth. And
Yeah.
don't you dare say anything against it, or you'll be off YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other ones, because we have, there's such a thing as the truth and facts, and we have to stick to it. And,
It's scary.
and that is the truth. And nobody died in the Holocaust either.
No.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It should happen. 6 million Jews should die right now because they cause all the problems in the world, but it never happened. But it never happened.
Oh man, this is a great show. This is a great show.
Okay.
You take a pundit.
Go.
They've built this pundit, Roseanne Barr, who has millions and millions and millions of people who listen to her and value what she says and trust her. And then they have her come out and just go blah and say this shit. And now everybody has to argue about whether or not she's right.
They're the ones causing all the problems in the world.
6 million should die because they're the ones.
Yeah.
Oh, and all these people that are like, well, it's the international Jewry that's causing this. Hitler said that. And people are saying that now. No, the problem is not that. Paul, you've been saying this for longer than anybody I know. It's
Years.
It's the fucking criminals.
I've been saying this actually for decades, that through my entire life, I've said liars, thieves, and thugs are the problem. And they are the root of the problem of every problem. Well, with the exception of stupidity. But yeah, because when somebody like for example, the Jews are causing a problem. Well, it's only some Jews, and they're all criminals. Because the meaning of crime means that you've offended a morality. And so if anything does, if anybody does something that you think is wrong, then that is by definition a crime. Therefore, criminals are the problem. Pretty simple.
Thanks,
But then you can take the word Jew out of it. That
Exactly.
all of us.
And you should, because if you kill one innocent Jew because all of the other ones did crime, then all you've done is executed an innocent person because of the crimes of someone else.
Right.
Which is immoral.
Yeah, because
that's a crime.
I don't think society, no matter what your religion, race, color, or creed is, should all be executed. However, it's interesting that there's certain groups that are at the top, the central banking system, the pyramid, and everything else. Now, I can understand why this all gets.
Do you think that's an accident?
No. I don't think.
If you wanted to convince the whole population that the criminals are extraordinarily deceptive, wouldn't you create a situation where they use the Jews as a human shield?
Same with Noah Yuval Harari and George Soros, and I am of the
Klaus
belief
Schwab.
Yeah, if you think that any of those people are the top, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, if you can see them, then they're not controlling anything.
Noah Yuval Harari is a cartoon character.
So is Klaus Schwab. I mean, the guy.
Klaus Schwab.
We were prepped with James Bond and all those villains for the character of Klaus Schwab to show up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Dr. Evil.
All the bugs.
You will eat the bugs, and you will be happy.
You will own nothing and be happy about it.
You guys, we're now an hour and a half in, and we've never gotten to what you guys wanted to present.
Okay. Yeah, John, let me dump this on him because it's actually super simple.
I gotta pee.
Okay, so here's the simple thing that I just came up with this morning. It makes perfect sense. Okay, so you remember that Trump made that speech and he put up the graph and it's got the arrow at the bottom and he pointed out the arrow, and if you look at the dates, it's right in the middle of April of 2020. Yes. And he also made the comment, that was my last day in office, or that was my last week in office. Okay, well, wait a second. What's going on? Who's the president, right? John and I have been wrong over and over and over again about predictions because we find these patterns, we find real data that points at things and says, okay, this has to be a thing because all these tacit indicators point at this being a thing. And you look at the information space and they're making a big deal about something that's about to happen, right? And then nothing happens. Okay, that in itself is a pattern. The fact that we keep finding these patterns and they keep not happening is a pattern. It's also present in the Peanuts comic strip where Lucy pulls the football away from Charlie Brown. Okay.
I'm following.
So essentially what John and I have determined is the reason all that information is there is to mislead people into believing a certain thing is happening when actually something else is happening. Okay, so we've kind of learned from this progression of being wrong over and over and over again about things that appear to be very, very logical, that the information space has been prepared in such a way that you're going to be vulnerable for thinking you know what's going on because misinformation has been put in front of you to mislead you about what you think is going on. Okay. So we had predicted that there would be a big reveal that Biden would drop states evidence and that they would reveal this. And we actually held on to that for a long time. And then it went south when he put that graph up there because it's like, wait a second. If he's telling the truth, is it possible that he stepped down as POTUS in April? And I would guess 4/10/20 because that's gematria for DJT, right? Is it possible that he devolved the government so that there was no POTUS and put us into a state of war? Now, John and I have been looking for one condition that would unwind this whole thing, and that is where you have no POTUS and the military has no choice but to step in under the law of war. This makes perfect sense under the Q drops as a way to do it. Okay, and we've been trying to find that scenario for the last year. We've had lots of attempts. We've been wrong every single time. Every single time. Now Trump drops this graph, and I look at it and go, he could have devolved the government in 2020 before the election. So then I said, okay, I'm going to go to the Constitution, and I'm going to see how many times does it mention Commander-in-Chief. Article 2, Section 2, it mentions it one time. This is really important. John and I have already covered on multiple shows that the Commander-in-Chief in a state of war can do anything he feels is necessary without approval from anyone and without even announcing it to anyone in order to address the threat. That includes stepping down as president and putting the military in a state of war under the law of war. That is the exact condition that John and I have been looking for. So I looked at it and said, okay, that's completely possible. On 4/10/20 or April of 20, Trump could have secretly put the military in control and then continued to act like he was POTUS, but there was no actual POTUS. Why is this such an important possibility? The reason is because the entire Constitution and the entire body of law that governs how POTUS is to behave says president. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say commander-in-chief.
Now, hold that thought, because I don't think you'd ever think that I could pull clips that would coincide with what you're saying, but I can. Right? That's what I do. That's my magic power. Listen to this.
In Article 2, where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that.
Ta-da! Thing called Article 2. Nobody ever mentions Article 2. More importantly, Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Article 2 would have allowed me to fire him. So it sounds like I wasn't going to fire. You know why? Because I watched Richard Nixon go around firing everybody, and that didn't work out too well. So very simply, Article 2 would allow me to do. I could have done anything I wanted. I don't even bring it up because we don't even get there. Absolutely, yeah. Article 2. It gives me all of these rights at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We don't even talk about Article 2. So they rule no collusion, no obstruction. Very
Okay, so here's the really important point I want to make from a legal standpoint. If Trump stepped down as POTUS and ordered the military to go into a state of war where there is no POTUS, right? The only way they could return to having a POTUS is if they had a legitimate election that wasn't rigged, and it was known that the POTUS was elected and affirmed legally as per the Constitution. And during that duration of that period, no law, regulation, or even the Constitution limiting or guiding what POTUS is allowed to do would matter at all, because you only have commander-in-chief at that point. And the Constitution doesn't say what commander-in-chief's allowed to do. He literally could do anything, and the legalities are just thrown out the freaking window.
Hang on, I want to address one quick thing.
That's Dave. Just so you're aware, John. That's my. I mean, we've been buddies for months now, right? But that's Dave from News Trees, and that's the show that I went on last week. And I will be on, just for everybody that isn't aware. Please come over to Captain Kyle's show tonight. Support me and Dave. Will be on there together. On
Cool.
Captain Kyle's show tonight.
I want to make the point that that EO 13912 authorizes up to $1 million. It didn't actually. It allowed. I think it allowed the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of Navy or whatever it was. It gave them the ability to federalize it. So it's not necessarily a done deal. I think it's significant. I think that EO is significant. But
my point is, if he devolved the government, it doesn't matter what the president did, because there's no POTUS to be held accountable. So he could be commander-in-chief, and all the restrictions on POTUS disappear because there's no legal way to say that he didn't have authority, because they're not operating under the Constitution. They're operating under the law of war. Now, the law of war requires them to honor the Constitution as much as is possible. However, in a state where there's no POTUS, none of the laws regarding the POTUS matter.
Yep.
They have to do what they think is the closest thing to the Constitution in a state with no POTUS. So all this bullshit about POTUS and Biden and everything, you have to look at it through a completely different legal lens, which is, they ain't no POTUS. Commander-in-chief in that state can decide to fake the Biden administration, for example.
Yep.
And there's no law that says that commander-in-chief can't do that. It would be under the law of war. If that's the best way to proceed against the threat, then that's what they can do. And now, let me go back to your post, Q drop 14. Okay, go to Q drop number 4 and look at the last line. This is October 29th, 2017.
While I'm doing that, let's can you answer Leskush with $2 Rumble Rant to Paul's point about the military being in charge? Do you think General Milley is a mole? I have an answer for that, but I want to hear your guys while I look up. You said post 4?
yes.
Yeah, post 4. Personally, I don't think anybody's a mole. I think the thing is a show top to bottom, but in the cartoon narrative that we talk about, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're going to know until after the fact.
Yeah, Yale PhD puts it in there for entertainment purposes only. He's an actor. That's what I think.
That's exactly what I would have said.
Anybody you can see is an actor. Look at post 4 and look at the last line. Bring it up on the screen, because it's going to blow people's mind. If we're watching a show, and if it's possible for POTUS to do this, he could have done this at any time. This is October 29th. Look at the last line there. Go down. What? Is that post 4?
Yeah, that's
yeah. The last line. Patriots are in control. Sit back and enjoy the show. On October 29th, had POTUS already stepped down?
9 months into his term.
Was it already? Like, did he do it on day 1? He could have done this at any time, because remember, on the first day of his administration, he would have had access to the predicate information that appears in the Q drops on August 9th. Okay, all of the attack against him from the Obama administration.
Yep.
And that would have given him the state of war to devolve the government. And if he was being helped by the military ahead of time, they would have already had all this put into place. He could have done his inauguration speech and then signed something, and bam, there's no POTUS.
And it would have given it gives a whole new perspective, and still very realistic to a bunch of his
and legal
standing there with all the generals. That could have been.
And Trump could have been acting like POTUS, because that's what the military wanted the world to see. That is a legitimate course of action in a state of war. Bam. All the laws about POTUS. So this is why pre-show I was talking about, other theories of devolution and things like that. This simplifies all of that analysis by a radical degree. You can look up all the documents and laws you want. If it says president, doesn't fucking matter. If they did this, doesn't fucking matter. Wow, I did 2 F-bombs in a row. I'm sorry.
That was
I apologize.
Wow. That's
Lord, I apologize.
wow. It's usually kind of my bailiwick. You're crowding my.
Look, absolute
Sorry.
1776 tells you guys beat, by the way. Somebody in the comments the other day said he breathes F words.
But yeah, so like I have the deepest respect for John Harold and even Derek Johnson. Both of them, they're probably right about a lot of things, probably wrong about a lot of things. But the thing is, this isn't to trivialize what these guys have done. It's a massive good amount of work. Everybody needs to work towards the truth. That's what we're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. I respect that fully. But what I just said might radically simplify everything John's done. Because anything that is a limit on POTUS or looks like all of Trump's executive orders might have been kayfabe.
Yep.
We don't know. We can't know. In this scenario, we can't know. So the entire information space is such that you can't know what's going on. But that should blow some people's minds.
Yeah, this actually fits as commander-in-chief, where there is no POTUS. I mean, Trump even talking about that at the press conference.
Yeah, it's like they're giving you little tidbits going, can you figure it out? Can you figure it out?
No, we've been wrong. Paul and I have been wrong just about every freaking time. His treason personally did devolve. Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about.
I think everything that we've become aware of is way dated from reality. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I think there's more than one shell of coherent narratives. In other words, John and I talk about the cartoon narrative all the time, which is Trump versus Biden and all that. That narrative is almost completely coherent. It's very hard to find the cracks in it that make it not make sense, right? But then when you go further back, like John and I went and developed the whole Percival theory, that also is almost completely coherent. And I would argue it's more coherent than the cartoon narrative. Yep. But you know what? You can go further. And there's another more coherent narrative after that. So going back to what that person, I can't remember the username, who said, the thing about being awake. You can be in the cartoon narrative completely and be awake to the corruption and the crime. And that's just fine. The world's going to move forward. Everybody's going to be happy. But there are different levels of being awake. You can know more and more about how the world actually operates, and you get closer and closer to the truth.
Somebody's got a question for you guys. I don't necessarily have an answer for this one. I want to hear if you guys do. So Song Babe gifted $5, and I think Song Babe sounds like a girl to me. Sorry, I apologize if it's not. Northern Command entered the Cheyenne Mountain when COVID was declared an emergency, according to the Denver Post. Mm-hmm. I can't find source that they've come out.
Well, yeah, I mean, keep in mind that's what's been said. But if you're in a war state, you can't trust any official correspondent.
Excuse me.
So yeah, I'm not saying that isn't true, but huge chunks of the military might not know what's going on.
Yeah,
huge. I can prove that. No, I can 100% prove that. In my opinion, I can prove it. So January 6th, right? The inauguration, January 6th, caging in DC, 25,000 National Guard that were sworn in as marshals. And I've talked to them. I've talked to some of them that were on that post, right? We've seen the Mountain Division patches. We've seen Q proofs from them being there. We watched an inauguration that was blatantly fugazi, right? There was hardly anything real about that inauguration. Let's just put it that way. From the gun salutes to Lady Gaga to being sworn in early, we can go into all the details, but I am of the belief that was not legitimate. So, well, Damn, what just happened to my? Sorry, I just got distracted. I hate when it does that. Rumble gets all weird. Where was I going? What was the point?
Oh, you were talking about different things that we've seen that are fugazi.
Yeah, that the military might not know.
Yeah. So compartmentalization. So you have literally Christopher Miller, who we have on camera, which could be intentional, saying thank you to Mike Pence for his steady hand.
To Pence, right?
His steady hand in some of the most complex military operations that this country has ever seen. And then we have National Guard that have no clue what's happening, but they're sleeping in parking garages and getting pizzas delivered. But
also don't make the assumption of assuming that Christopher Miller is actually in control of anything or that Pence was involved in anything. Maybe that was just part of the show that's being shown to the public to run them down a certain psychological path. Everything can be a psyop. Everything you see can be a psyop. It could be real or it could be fake.
And what is the point of fifth generation warfare? It is to lead you around by your emotions. So it only brings validity to these points because what happens? We grasp these clips, right? Remember the one where it said there will be a smooth transition to military power? Yeah. We've all shared that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the beginning, all the Anons were thinking in a very small time frame. It's like, oh, it's going to be over with in 6 months or a year. I can't imagine it would go on longer than that. Here we are 7 years later, and it's still raging, and it's weirder than anybody could imagine. So, I mean, my favorite news story that flew by was that some guy got arrested for having sex with 42 dogs to death, which
BBC
that
guy
didn't happen. I'm sorry, BBC guy. Now, if that's not just complete BS, like, does anybody think any human being has taken the life of 42 dogs that way? I'm sorry, that didn't happen. Why 42? Well, 42 is a very magic number if you've read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Thanks for all the fish. Yeah.
What do you guys talk about? Sorry, you guys do references where no one else on the planet will ever understand what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah,
I need you 42, to explain.
Yeah, 42 is referenced in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as the answer to life, the universe, and everything. We think it comes from the Book of the Dead in Egypt, which actually is more correctly called How to Present Yourself Before Other People. And essentially is a protocol for how you get accepted into the group of people who is being puppeteered by the people who run the world. That's what an Osiris is. So yeah, this goes back thousands of years, and that's why I said that there are different levels of being awake, and you can keep getting larger and larger time frames and understanding more and more about how the world actually runs. And to say that we're watching a show is perhaps the biggest humorous understatement in the universe.
Yeah.
It's the show that never ends.
I think Puggy was trying to troll, but that's really funny.
Yeah, what if Rambo is fake? What if we're fake?
Maybe I'm just a brain in a vat, or maybe I'm AI. Huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, can I sum that up? Because it does get out there, right? If you start to consider that everything we've been told is in some way, shape, or form to lead us around by our emotions,
right?
And if you come to grasp the concept that that's not new, this has been going on for generations upon generations, then it can be a bit discouraging.
I think it's all of recorded history.
Yep.
Personally, I think it's all of recorded history.
Okay.
No joke.
So my main mission with my posts and this show is to make sure that we motivate people and we are attempting to move the goalposts forward in a positive way as far as freedom, family, country, God, kids, right? So how do we connect those two? Because that gets real woo when you start to realize that or think or believe that nothing we're being told. So is there good guys that are in control of this ship at this point?
Yes. And it isn't true to say that they lie about everything or that nothing we're being told is true. Many things are true. What's what's being distorted is the stuff that's necessary to get people to understand how to get to the next place that the people who run the world want us to get to. So I personally think we're seeing the process in a grand, long-term phase of elimination of crime from the human species. They're going to virtually eliminate crime.
Yep. It is interesting. 257 said, could a single person be commander in chief for 3 terms? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's possible. I think it's, again, the
absolutely.
Constitution, what we're saying is that the Constitution gives POTUS at the time the power he must take care that the laws be enforced. That's the thing in Article 2 that I think Trump is referring to. That's
right. There's no restrictions.
No.
There's no restrictions on how he can do that. He can do literally whatever he deems necessary. And the only recourse is impeachment. Now, going back to what I said about how profound the legal implications of this are, is if he steps down as POTUS and retains commander-in-chief, there is no primitive to come back against him. Congress can't impeach a commander-in-chief. They can only impeach POTUS.
Huh.
Oh, no. Now what? We are absolutely living through the strangest time in recorded history, I think.
Yeah.
With deception at an all-time high. Joe, you asked how to connect these things. I think people just have to get curious. And the point you make on your show all the time is let go of the emotion and think about stuff. Try to think about it without being emotionally tied to a narrative. Do I want Trump back in the White House? Yes. But I accept that may not be. It may be that he says, well, I've served my 2 terms and we're going to run a special election. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, and this is cartoon narrative. I think what's most likely to happen is they're going to drag this shit on. I mean, people might have noticed that you're really tired. I think that's because we're being drugged. Literally, I think that's what the zombie apocalypse is. It's a metaphor for everybody's drugged, and there's a great revealing of truth, which is what's going on right now. And so we're all zombies, and there's an apocalypse going on. Guess what? Welcome to the zombie apocalypse. They love their puns. But I think the most likely thing that happens somehow, I don't even know when, and John and I are pretty much done making these predictions because we realized that the information space is set up to make you mispredict. And so if you're trusting anything in the information space under this devolved situation, you're going to be wrong. Right? But I think what's most likely is the people are going to get what they want, but they're going to be forced to fight for it.
I was just thinking, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was just thinking about this dude literally yesterday. I haven't seen 17 Special Civilian Ops in a while because dude, I absolutely love and respect the dude. He's been on the show. I would have him again anytime. Sorry, let me just say, first of all, thank you, Sean. I saw all the support you gave me over there. The raid, and I got your question. 17th got me off topic. Do you guys have an answer for him for that? Because I agree with him. Supporting the Constitution.
Did I suggest that it was? It's
No.
not emotional. No, it's
No, we
I'm
never
not
did. In
taking
fact,
it that way.
even the scenario I pointed out where POTUS can devolve the government is constitutional. POTUS has the right to do that. POTUS is given the authority to do that because he has to take care that the laws are executed. But in a state of war, he can literally do anything necessary to meet the threat. And if he decides with his sole discretion that the best way to do that is to step down as POTUS so that none of the legal wording, including in the Constitution, can be used against the commander-in-chief, then that's his discretion to do. And so it is completely supporting the Constitution. Maybe that's the best thing to do. I mean, unless you have a different opinion than commander-in-chief, in which case, why don't you go argue with him about it?
Well, so here's something that I've thought of, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but if you have a corrupt Supreme Court, a judiciary, let's just talk about the 3 branches of government. A corrupt judiciary, yeah, they can be impeached, especially if you have a Congress that isn't corrupt or legislative branch. If you have an executive that is corrupt, well, you can pull that. I'll answer that in a minute for sure. That the president can be impeached, and it's just a 4-year thing. But if the legislative branch gets corrupted, it would take a long time, but if it got corrupted, there is no way to clean that out. No way.
Yeah.
There's no mechanism in the Constitution for that.
Well, I would say, yeah, there is. It's the scenario we're talking about. And by the way, that comment about that he can't do it in secret, yes, he can. Look at the Price's case in 1863. The court, the justice that wrote the affirmative opinion, specifically says that the president is not required to tell anybody what he's doing.
He doesn't have to wait for Congress to baptize the war.
He doesn't have to wait for it. He doesn't have to announce it. He doesn't have to sign anything. He can just do. So doing things in secret, if that's what he thinks is the best thing to do, he can do that. He is literally a dictator at that point.
Literally, like that actual opinion, the president was bound to meet it in the shape it presented itself, talking about the Civil War, without waiting for Congress to baptize it with a name. And no name given it by him or them could change that fact. So they're saying, look, the state of war was visited upon the president. The president was bound to meet force with force. So I agree that it hasn't been affirmed by SCOTUS that this would be possible, but there is that drop.
Also, I mean, what you just said makes sense. He was meeting a covert force. And if he decided to do things covertly, that would be reasonable, would it not?
Yeah. There's a Rumble rant. These don't come up on my comments, so I can't just bring them up on the screen. I apologize. But UMM 257 Rumble rant says, doesn't Congress have the sole legal authority to declare war?
No, the Prize cases literally define that. It's from 1863 Prize cases. I'll put a link in the chat where it basically said, Lincoln. So if you guys don't know the background, really quickly, Lincoln declared a blockade of the southern ports. No war was declared. No Civil War was declared. He declared a blockade. 3 or 4 ships were seized by the Union, and then the owners of those ships sued the federal government for piracy. They were saying, well, there's no state of war. So you seize those, that's basically piracy. You need to pay us for the ships. And the Supreme Court said, no, just because he didn't declare a war. And yes, technically it's correct that the Constitution gives the authority to declare war to Congress, but that isn't an exclusive, because if the president feels like declaring a war against an insurrection is, if that's necessary, well, how is she going to do it? I mean, the framers, I've referenced this a bunch of times. I think it's Federalist 70 or 74. I think it's 70, where, they modeled the Republic on the Republic of Rome. They held that in the highest of regards. And it was Madison who said in that Federalist 70, every man the least conversant with Rome and the Republic of Rome knows that from time to time, the Republic had to seek the refuge of one man, a dictator.
Yeah.
And I believe that was absolutely the intent of the founders. Now, would that need to be confirmed by the SCOTUS after the fact? Maybe. I mean, it's drop 1602, where the one line in there, I think, is what is relevant. Our rights to secure and protect at all costs then become justified. I think that's a thing. Look, after the fact, at the end of the day, if this does have to go in front of SCOTUS,
they're going to say it was legal.
How else could
we lost your audio?
Me?
Yeah.
Just for a second, you're back.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I say something real quick?
No.
I am blown away at what this show has accomplished. I got to say this because I'm watching this chat and I'm listening to you two, and there is such a wide range of people, all within the same movement, contributing to this conversation, that I literally have chills. From Sean and on to News Treason to 17th to you two. And so many. I don't mean to not leave. You guys are all contributing. This is legitimately what I envisioned when I started this show. A loving and caring atmosphere where we can have these conversations without getting upset or hurt or fighting. This is
Yeah.
what's happening right now today is blowing my mind, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for doing this. I just wanted to say that. I'm literally pulling. I mean, there isn't one person that I've put on the screen and their comments today that all agree with each other. And we are literally having this conversation in a way where there is nothing but love and respect and admiration for each other in doing so.
People need to understand. Yeah, people need to understand that you're never going to fully agree with anybody. 100%. People have different opinions. People have different life experiences. People have different views of life. And so people are going to have varying levels of importance that they place on different things. And people are going to have different policy opinions. And that's okay. We all just need to make sure that the important stuff is stuff that the human species together can get right so we move forward, not backward.
It's blowing my mind. I gotta say thank you again because that's a big one. Big Cha Cha. That's a good name. $20 Rumble and thank you for this wonderful discussion. Look, I thank you all. Thank you too. Thank you everybody in the chat. I legitimately am telling you, like, I'm getting chills. This was everything I envisioned when I started doing this. What's happening right now. So thank you.
This chat is just awesome. So many people, and I might disagree with. We might not find agreement on some of this stuff, but the cool thing is we're having this talk, Joe. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's right.
Yeah, I can't see the chat today. My PC died, so I'm on my phone.
Oh, they're all in between. All the nice ones. They're all saying "F smart Paul."
Yeah, Plex. That guy's an idiot.
One thing News Treason said, you were referring to Drop 22 as saying, well, that was Lincoln. What former president used the military to save the republic, and what occurred exactly? I put a link to our Percival theory. It's a theory, but
coherent.
There's so many things that seem to line up with it. What if Teddy Roosevelt? What if he did that back in 1904 and 1905? I'm not going to go into everything. It's all there in the.
Yeah. What if we've been watching a show for 140 years straight?
It's possible. Impossible.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What if we've been watching a show for 6,000 years straight? It's weirder and weirder.
That's a good point. But however, at the same time, to legitimize what these guys are talking about, we may not know, and it is a highly classified program. However, there's been absolute 100% messaging where Donald Trump left with it, right, on Inauguration Day. Never happened before. And then they switched it out, and Biden got a different one. That was the messaging we got. We've seen Donald Trump look like somebody with him was carrying it. That was intentional. I'm not saying it was real or it was fake, but it was messaged to us intentionally, right? So I think that brings legitimacy to the fifth generation warfare aspect of this whole thing.
Yeah, well, and also Trump has been getting the 38 vehicle motorcades for the entire time, which former presidents don't get, right? Or is that commanders in chief? Has anybody thought about that angle? Maybe he's getting the motorcades because he's commander in chief, and there is no POTUS. Because when you devolve the government like that, it lays waste to even the Constitution that talks about POTUS's powers. Any reference to the president becomes moot if there is no president.
Keep going. I'm pulling something up.
JFanon makes a great point. If we can figure it out, then guess who else can figure it out? Yeah, that's true. If there really is.
Yeah, but this assumes there's bad guys.
I know. That's where I'm going. Maybe there really aren't. Maybe this is a big show or a big sting.
Maybe this is just about getting the herd to act responsibly for a change and think for themselves. Maybe it's about ascending people's thinking because there's a new way to deal with the evil side of the species.
Did you guys hear? You want to talk about intentional messaging? So I just found what I was looking for. This is this week recent. I want to show you guys what RFK said. This was, I don't know that there's anything to it. I look at it as absolutely what we were just talking about, intentional messaging, fifth generation warfare. Look, there's something I think most people don't consider when we hear clips like this is that they are aware of what we're talking about, right? They have their thumb on the temperature of the movement. It's like my pause clip. When it hit like 20 million, look, I don't think this is an arrogant thing to say. It's just a dot being connected. It hit 20, 25 million, and all of a sudden Trump did 3 more pause clips in his speeches. Could be a coincidence. Didn't feel like it to me. Devolution is a thing that a lot of people talk about. Continuity of government, devolution, law of war manual, whatever your favorite influencers research is that has convinced you enough that there might be something similar to this going on. Well, listen to RFK this week. This kind of like really cracked me up.
Your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it. The Democratic Party's censorship of social media was even more of a naked exercise of executive power.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You alone weren't the reason for devolution, but you contributed.
Well, he says the devolution, which can be taken multiple ways.
The devolution of democracy,
but,
right?
But see, this is exactly the kind of weasel wording that the PSYOPs guys will use to get certain people to say, "Oh no, he said devolution," and other people to say, "Nah, that's not necessarily what he meant." And then they all argue about it, just like flat Earth. And the only way out of arguing about it is to think for yourself.
And when they publicly talk about it, when any of us publicly talk about this stuff, it gets more and more widespread. The PSYOP guys, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I've asked you guys, we've talked about PEDS before, right? So Les Cush says, Paul, check your DMs. They just sent you something about PEDS. We've discussed them before, right? Because I brought up the PEDS to you guys, and you kind of like discredited, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't personally think PEDS mean much because in one context, nobody's ever ruled on them, and they may be even ruled unconstitutional. But the thing is, if you understand that under the threat of war or insurrection, POTUS can do whatever he wants, then you don't even need PEDS. PEDS is just kind of a canard that's thrown into the mix to get everybody arguing about PEDS, kind of like flat Earth. Let's spend our time arguing about PEDS rather than what the spine of it is, because POTUS doesn't need PEDS to do whatever the hell he wants. He just has to believe that there's a state of war, and he can just do whatever he wants, PEDS or not. So that doesn't discredit PEDS. It just kind of says, they're probably irrelevant.
Can I add to the logic of the PEDS discussion? And I'm going to do it in the same way that we've just done everything else. Hold on, let me back up, because I pulled up one of the PEDS clips. This is a little bit long. I'm not going to play this whole thing. However, I think the beginning of it's important. So the PEDS were messaged to us as a society before Donald Trump even took office by the mainstream media.
They were created by Eisenhower before Kennedy even got on.
In my opinion, it's narrative seeding at its finest.
Yeah,
why
a lot
is
longer
the
than people think.
mainstream media, who we've been told is fake and against Donald Trump, giving us the idea that Donald Trump has the power to take them all over before it even becomes a thing? That doesn't
it's all a
compute.
show.
Right. Here, let's watch just the first couple minutes of it.
The President of the United States is often called the most powerful person on earth. But where do those powers begin and end? A question for senior contributor Ted Koppel to consider.
The power of the president is enormous.
I have the absolute right to declare a national emergency.
This president is not bashful in describing powers that go well beyond simple declarations.
The authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be. The authority is total.
There are, it's true, some restraints on most presidential authority, but those might not apply to all the president's powers.
They have the right to do a lot of things that people don't even know about.
We can't know for sure, but what the president appears to have been referring to are his presidential emergency action documents, often referred to as PEDs. Former Senator Gary Hart.
Even though I've had security clearances for the better part of 50 years and been in and out of national security matters during that half century, I had never heard of these secret powers.
Do you know what they are now that you've heard of them?
Only vaguely, due to research done at the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University Law School. What these secret powers are, apparently, based on the research, is suspension of the Constitution, basically. And that's what's worrying, particularly on the eve of the national election.
These are essentially presidential orders that are drafted in anticipation of a range of hypothetical worst-case scenarios.
The Brennan Center research that Senator Hart referred to has been spearheaded by Elizabeth Goitein, the co-director of its national security program and a contributing writer at The Atlantic. Several times during his administration, President Trump has made allusions to secret powers that he has that we don't know about. Is he making that up?
Well, not exactly. And what's alarming about that is that no one really knows what the limits of those claimed authorities might be, because they are often developed and kept in secret.
Goitein says what little we do know about PEDs comes from references to them in other documents, some of which are now declassified.
They originated in the Eisenhower administration as part of an effort to try to plan for a potential Soviet nuclear attack. But since then, they've expanded to address other types of emergencies as well. No presidential emergency action document has ever been released or even leaked. Not even Congress has access to them, which is really pretty extraordinary when you consider that even the most highly classified,
Should I keep going? Should I let it play out?
military and intelligence.
No, it's painful.
This is so painful.
There's no proof that any PEDs exist. There's mentions in other documents that have been declassified, but we don't even know that those documents weren't created and declassified as part of the show. It literally is a giant information canard to get people arguing over something that's irrelevant. Because POTUS,
to get people talking about it, because I think we're going to have a constitutional masterclass coming up whenever this thing ends, because people are going to go, well, wait, how the fuck did President Trump do that? Like, what? By what means? By what methods is that constitutional or not? I think we're all going to find out.
If we start to put it all together, right? So Donald Trump, I mean, might as well call him Precedent Trump, right? So we have the documents cases, right, where they kicked his door in at Mar-a-Lago. They told us about it days before. Then we have the documents in Biden's garage next to his Corvette, not to mention the other 17 offices. He had documents all over the place. We have presidential immunity, where they have basically set up Donald Trump to be able to make decisions as a president that would secure our, would take care of our national security. It's everything. They're giving us a history lesson across the board between Ronald Reagan being shot and not killed, between LBJ being the only other president to ever step down the same way that Biden did. We are literally being retaught everything about American history.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're also being shown how corrupt crime is, right, and how deceptive it all is. But we're likely in the cartoon narrative, I think it's gonna show that there was no POTUS. The whole thing was all kayfabe to get everybody to run around in a circle while they could round up tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of criminals, so that everybody can see that the military did a good job and got rid of the crime, and the crime was the problem. And so in order to eliminate crime in the future, we need to involve the military. Mm-hmm. See how that works? You want to use surveillance to get rid of RICO, how do you sell it?
Oh, and
This
even
is
the
what-
Rico thing. Even the Rico thing. We got literally. I
Why-
just posted a few clips of Giuliani on Dr. Phil's show.
Think of it in a larger context. Why does RICO law exist? And I would argue to get rid of crime now.
So you think that Rudy Giuliani, for the first time ever using RICO to take down the mafia, was
architecting our history now so that it would make perfect sense to use surveillance to kill racketeering, basically organized crime. They need to sell that to the population of the planet in order to eliminate 99.9% of all crime, which has never been done in history. And so we're watching a ginormous show just so the people of the planet accept the best thing for the human species, which is to proceed into the future without most of the evil.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Joe,
and once again, just to underscore this, I don't fault anybody for thinking I'm nuts. I have no problem with that.
The
With
scale,
all the stuff we've seen.
if you guys, myself, and some others in the chat, no matter what, the group of people that are watching the show and active in the chat right now, if any of us are even close, this is one of the most largest complex operations ever.
I would go a step further. I think this is going to be the biggest behavioral change in the human species forever.
You know what's the other option? What the other option, right? To look at it as a normie, the news is telling you the truth. We're just watching some dumb guy with Alzheimer's fight against some egomaniac racist.
Right. But even if they believe that, when this is all said and done, it's still going to work out fine. Because if you commit crime, you get caught. There's cameras everywhere now. There's surveillance everywhere.
Logically, the most complicated military operation we've ever seen seems more realistic than what we're watching. Just logically on a very base level.
To the normie, but when you look at the larger patterns, there's cracks in that narrative.
No, what I'm saying, take all of my background out of it. If I were to try to put myself in normie shoes right now, the cartoon narrative has become so ridiculous that the most complex military seems more realistic than what
Exactly. Right. That's why almost all of the population is going to believe the cartoon narrative and think there's nothing more to it. Oh, we caught the bad guys, and if we never want crime to happen again, we have to use military surveillance in order to get rid of racketeering, organized crime. And then 20, 30 years later, organized crime will have disappeared. 99.9% of all the crime you see will have disappeared. Life will be so good that no one will make the argument to stop using it. All you have to do is look at crime graphs and say, look how bad the crime was in the early 2020s. You want to go back to that?
So, okay. So you guys love using your what do you say? You love making predictions?
Frontal lobes?
Yeah, your frontal lobes.
Yeah, frontal lobes.
So now that every time that we get together, we're a couple steps closer. How the hell does this play out? Now, I'm not saying one of your big predictions. I'm just saying, what's your opinion?
Well, the thing is, we were trying to predict because we were looking for the scenario where there was military occupation with no POTUS, because that provided the fertile ground for unveiling the massive corruption as part of the narrative to the masses. Okay, and we didn't believe we were in that situation. But with this last speech that Trump made, where he pointed at that and said, well, that was my last week in office, that is the little tidbit thrown out there to say, maybe we've been devolved for years. Maybe we've been in that state. John and I have been looking for a state that's already there, which means if that's true, that means they're just playing the story out in a way that people have to believe it. And if that's the case, don't even bother trying to predict how it's going to go.
Okay, but for the masses, right? I'm not saying predict it on a real level the way that we're trying to dig into the potential here. I'm saying presentation, cartoon narrative. Does 2020 has to be exposed, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Has to.
Yeah. we think the narrative is going to be that they're going to unveil schemes of corruption that are so repugnant and so vast and involve so many people that, like, for example, I think, all the prices when you go to the grocery store are maybe 20 or 30% higher than they should be, right? Well, have you seen the little news blurbs flying by that CEOs are getting indicted for price fixing and things? And Kamala Harris made a big deal out of price fixing. That's all neuro-linguistic program. That's all NLP and the PSYOP to get people ready for the idea of, oh my God, the only reason the prices are so high is because these evil corporations are taking billions in profits, and it's criminal. It's RICO. It's racketeering. It's crime. How could we possibly get rid of this? Well, military grade surveillance. And then all the prices drop immediately.
I think what you're saying is brilliant. And you know what I think RFK did that was, I think the biggest thing that RFK's whole deal this week really influenced, one of the biggest questions that I got the most here as of the last 6 months was, what about the chemtrails? What about the vaccines? What about what the chemicals they put in our food? What about all of these things that RFK literally just got made the spearhead of correcting?
Yeah, Trump can put him into the position where he's pushing all the things that make sense, and everything where RFK disagrees with him, he just won't be involved with it. He's a plug-in. And the entire left is going to trust RFK. He's a Kennedy.
Well, his own family's disavowing him, but I think when the stuff comes out,
they're all going to be arrested.
Yeah.
They're all going to be arrested for corruption. He's going to be the last Kennedy standing. It maybe not literally true, but in this everybody who came out against him is going to be shown to be a criminal, and that's why they came out against him. And everyone will believe that because it makes perfect sense. Oh, that's why they went against him. They were afraid because they were protecting their little crime cartel. That's going to be the theme of this whole thing when it finally collapses. Is, oh gosh, Scooby-Doo, the end of the episode, you pull off the hood and it's just the insurance agent who is running a scam. It's just a criminal. It's a petty thief. That's all it is. It's just criminals. It's not the Jews. It's not like the Ukrainians. It's not this. It's not that. It's just crime. I think that's why Scooby-Doo exists.
Yeah.
Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys. Gen X grew up reading those fiction books. Why? Because it makes you think like a detective.
This is going to be... I usually try to do things that make the audience feel good. This is not going to be one of those times. But
well, if you're going to go, burn them.
Yeah, this is going to hurt feelings. But I really... My intention is not to hurt feelings. It's just that I connected two things the other night while I was at work, right? So I've been on night shift. So I've been, don't tell my boss, but I've been like doing this type of work while I'm at work when we're not busy. And these two clips next to each other really kind of intrigued me. And I just want to see your guys' thoughts on it. We're probably going to bounce out of here after that. Well, I'm sure I'll figure out how to put a message back up here, but I just want to see what you guys think about the potential like, do you think it's possible that Donald Trump doesn't become president again?
Yeah.
I think it's possible. I think that the challenge, though, is that he has been the guy in the narrative leading this thing and fighting for all these Americans who, forgotten voices. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to.
I can see a scenario. Yeah. I mean, I could see a scenario where he's in office. I can see a scenario where he doesn't do that because a lot can happen between now and that kind of reveal. And, this is psychological judo or jujitsu. And so they can engineer a system relatively quickly where if Donald Trump says, you know what, this is your guy and it fits perfectly, life will move on.
Can I show you the two clips that made me question that?
Sure.
I still believe Donald Trump's going to be president. Let me just make that clear. I think Donald Trump's closer to president right now than anybody believes, right? When I post, I'm very honest, which is why I posted this. I was just being very honest. So here's the first clip. This is RFK, okay, speaking the other night, and then I'm going to show you when RFK and Trump were both on stage together. Two clips put together. they're intriguing.
War and chronic disease. Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name my name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities.
Okay, so that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It becomes more interesting.
It's a psychological pretzel, by the way.
The complete psychological pretzel. Now, I want you to listen to the emphasis in Donald Trump's words in this one.
But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this, he is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
Did I miss it?
So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside.
There it is.
I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit.
So that was the part that intrigued me. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. Look, I've watched Donald Trump bring somebody up on stage at every damn rally for the last 8 years, and he's never said that. That's all I was saying. And it went really kind of weird hand in hand with the other clip where he said I could still be president. RFK did. So I thought it was odd. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's hundreds of these zingers that I think of them as, which is stuff to get you to think it's going to go a certain way. And this is like John and I, every time we've come up with one of these predictions, we're looking at all the data in the information space saying everything leans this way. They wouldn't spend this time and effort on making things lean this way unless they were going to do something. Well, it turns out, yeah, they do that intentionally. They set up the information space to make you to like grab your emotions and make you want it to go that way. So a certain number of the people are going to think that's how it's going to go. And then you get everybody talking and they all argue with each other. And then people think for themselves more because they're trying to defend their position. I think it's just the mechanics of like they're stirring a big witch's brew of information. And the end result at the end of the day is everybody thinks for themselves more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And this is a great point. There's no way that Trump and Harris will be tied unless it's completely rigged. I think that all of the very real people voting on polls on X's platform show that. I don't think that conservatives completely outnumber liberals on X, as most of my friends, I would say 50% of them, don't even have their accounts back yet. So for us to act like the X platform isn't at least the closest version we have to a 50-50 split between the right and the left, and then to watch all of these polls come out 75-20 and a couple voting independent, I think that that's the most realistic version we have of polls right now. The news is bullshit, period. Full stop, fake. They're motivating you emotionally, whether it be to get you to go vote or get you not to vote, whatever it might be. Polls have always been that. What we're watching in those ones where you get to vote and see the results, I think are more realistic. And I haven't seen one under 60% Trump, most of which are 75 plus.
Yeah, so they're kind of subdividing the population into two camps, or well, three camps if you include the portion that just isn't paying attention. But you have one side that understands that all the information they're seeing in the polls, the popular poll, is fake, and then you have the other side that believes it. Get them arguing about it.
Well, it's
then everybody learns that everything's fake.
If your candidate is winning or losing by 1 or 2%, what does that make you want to do? It makes you want to go to the polls and vote. It motivates you by your emotions.
Yeah, in this whole thing, they need the population to try to be more active in the government, and they need them to learn about it. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're getting them to be more active.
Imagine this scenario as it might play out. Okay, we go through the election, and the media has polling that's saying Harris is going to win by 5 or 7%, some number. People still get out and vote. Harris wins in a landslide. Everybody's going to go, what? This is not right. We know this is not right. And maybe that's when a reveal happens. I'm not date fagging this one, so don't pin me on that.
Yeah.
But I can see the scenario. And the beauty of that one would be that if the military were to come out and go, we were directed under certain executive orders or by the commander in chief, Donald Trump, to monitor this stuff. And we finally caught everybody. And by the way, this election was 100% bullshit. We are running a new election. It'll be in a month. It'll be whenever it is. ID, paper ballots, one day, military runs it. Totally verifiable. Yep. Everybody can look at the ballots, and they're going to see this huge majority for Trump, and everybody's going to go, wow, even the normies, wow, the media lied to us, and wow, this
unequivocally,
is so
right?
I've
come up with 4 or 5 different scenarios that make the reveal happen before the election, make the reveal happen after the election in various ways. I think the cleanest way is for DJT to take office on the 20th. But there's even, like you asked, is there a way that DJT is president? Yeah, they could do that too. There's all sorts of ways this could happen. DJT could get into office. Vance could resign. He could put Kennedy in as VP, and then DJT could step down. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what the zeitgeist of understanding in the population is going to be the moment before they do something like that. And a lot can change in a few weeks.
And it's hard to consider it all because when you really think about each subject specifically, there's a few that seem like they have to happen, right? World War III type event, financial collapse. These things are very possible factors.
Actually, this is one point I want to bring up that's kind of unrelated, but related to the structure of what you're saying, and that is that John and I have been predicting for months and months and months that we're going to see a UFO invasion. I'm stepping back from that now and giving that 50-50. I have no idea. I could see a scenario where they do it, but I also understand more fully now how the structure of the misinformation works. And it's very possible that is just a zinger in the information space that has been put there to try to get people to think for themselves more. And we may see nothing of the sort. We may see the military saying in a press conference as an aside, like they get to ask a question, what about UFOs? And the general just says, well, that's just all part of the crime. They're lying to you. I mean, and then everybody would believe it because the general said it. So you can't, this thing is so cooked on all sides, you're not going to be able to tell how it's going to turn out. And I think, John and I may have done a service by making all these predictions and being wrong. Because at each point when we were making these predictions, we had the rationalization. The data was there. Somebody was spending an enormous amount of energy putting all that stuff in place, and nothing happened. Why was the energy spent to put all that stuff in place? The reason is because they intentionally wanted you to be misled.
Talk about intentionally misled, right? We talk a lot about Obama. I think Obama is the most obvious case of somebody that's been used for intentional messaging, right? He told us about Joe Biden in the basement. If I could have a third term, I'd use an earpiece, right? He also told us the one that I've been using here recently that you have absolutely made me think of again is when when Barack Obama talked about basically fifth generation warfare. Flood the public square with enough mis and disinformation, and the game is won.
Right.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. Right. And then there's multiple shells of understanding. In the tightest shell, you get the Trump versus Biden thing, and then you can understand a little bit about, okay, well, maybe, was Obama an actor? If Obama was acting in the show, it throws the entire cartoon narrative off, because then none of the narratives about bad guys make sense. And John and I, meanwhile, are orbiting Saturn, like back 6,000 years ago.
Yeah, right. You're actually completely right. Yeah. Well, it's been 2.5 hours. I can't believe it's been 2.5 hours. I hang out with you guys and time just flies by. I'm always super grateful to do this with you. We got a bunch of stuff still yet to talk about. I want to let everybody know what's coming up here for the rest of the week. I want to give you guys the opportunity, while there's so many people in here, to let everybody know where they can find you first. Do you want to go first, Paul?
Sure. Yeah. My Substack is sapioplex.substack.com. I've got several websites, but the SSL certificates are being nerfed. So unless you're brave and want to skip past the security warning that tells you that I'm a bad guy, you're not going to be able to see much there. But and then I'm Sapioplex on both Twitter and Truth Social.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, if you take off the quote that's on the screen, our names will pop up again.
I forgot that was even there.
With the labels.
I'm doing like 19 things at once. I always try to not forget at the end. My bad.
Yeah. So I'm JFanon on Truth and JF_Anon on X. I want to address one thing. Sean Anon had posted something that in the chat that I think is really valuable, because there's a bunch of people going, RFK, no way. That guy is this and that guy is that. And Sean Anon basically says exactly what I'm thinking, which whatever we're seeing these people say, RFK, for example, it's part of the show. We don't really know what his, I mean, who knows? The way they could write it in is, he supposedly is anti Second Amendment. Okay. Well, what happens though if things flip and the military comes out and there's a big reveal and RFK would go, God, I was so wrong about that. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't hold any particular opinion about anyone and assume that that's something that's static, because it's not.
Yeah.
Talk
Also,
about intentional messaging. RFK,
yeah.
touch your nose if JFK Jr. is still alive.
Yeah. Well, let me point this out too. If we're correct, and this is a big show, one of the things under the law of war is the military can completely control the media.
Yep.
Mass media, all of it. Okay. People have no idea how powerful that is. They can shape the belief system of 99% of the population at will. And so when you think, oh, that would never happen, watch out, man. They can make it happen. So if in fact we're watching a show, they're going to make happen whatever they need to make happen to make this work.
Mind blowing. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell everybody real quick what we got coming up this week, because starting with you guys straight to the end is going to be awesome as far as I'm concerned. Tomorrow, I'm going to be way outside my wheelhouse. I am not a financial system type of dude. And G Money is going to be coming on tomorrow to talk to us about all of his beliefs with crypto, right? So I'll just tell you guys straight up, I am not a big crypto guy. I was way more into buying silver and hard assets that I could hold in my hand and put in my safe. I am interested in hearing him out. With Donald Trump doing the crypto thing, I do definitely still have my questions. I'm in the middle of reading 2 Substacks of his. I think that G Money has his place in this movement, and so I want to give him the platform to tell people that watch this show what it is that he believes. I know that he 1000% believes what he believes, so I sincerely look forward to it. And then on Wednesday, somebody that you guys have seen in the chat and was just talked about just a minute ago, Sean Anon will be here with Drunk Pinata, who I haven't seen in a long time. I can't wait to hang out with him. The last time the three of us got together, it was a completely mind-blowing show that went all hours of the night. I'm pretty sure it was like 6 hours I was on with those guys. So I cannot wait to do that. And then Thursday, of course, we're going to have the Eye of the Storm guys on here. So absolute 1776 and Stormy Patriot show as usual. So I can't wait. Thursday shows are awesome. Everybody knows so far now that it's been going really well with those two. So I can't wait to do it. I always do this, even though I've been getting better at it recently. I just want to say thank you to the two sponsors that we're pushing right now that are out here supporting Rambo and Frens. So obviously Mike Lindell from day one. If you want to save up to 80% on a bunch of amazing products through Mike, who did you guys see him shave his mustache off and go to the DNC?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
He asked Harry Sisson if is he had his vasectomy yet?
Yes, yeah.
It was
Dude,
awesome.
Mike's a legend. If you want to support Mike, get yourself some great products and also support this show, please use promo code Rambo. And then I'm not even going to drop it down. Let's go to Epic Minerals. So epicminerals.net. I got my products. I just sent out Fire Nate his rainfall, and I have all of my products right here. I actually am absolutely loving this stuff. I keep it down here now so the girls don't steal it. So my rainfall lotion and my detoxifier, the zeolite. Please do yourself a favor if you want to support Patrick Gunnels and also this show and get something really nice for yourself. This is the only thing I don't have yet, which I really want. I'm a huge bar soap guy, so I can't wait to get the natural handmade soap collection that they have. I got the other three major products, but epicminerals.net, same thing, promo code Rambo. So thank you guys for letting me show that. If you want to support the show, that is the best way. And of course, you see the banner and the QR code. That is for the people that asked how to support the show when they watch the replay, because we're not live and they can't throw up Rumble Rants or Gold Pills or whatever it might be. Please know it costs nothing to watch the show. That was there because people legitimately asked me how they can support. So that's the way. If you're watching the show and you want to, that Cash App is how you can support the show. So thank you guys very much for that. I hope that we can get back together soon, the two of you.
Man, anytime.
Say the word. Yeah, say the word.
We definitely have a blast, right?
So much fun. My
All
boss
right.
hates me. My boss totally hates me right now.
Why?
Because I'm
Your
not
boss?
doing work.
Well,
my boss.
I do have.
Yeah.
I got one more thing I got to tell everybody while everyone's in here. It's only a few hours until I will be on with Captain Kyle tonight with Dave from News Treason. I have not yet met Captain Kyle. I've watched a few of his shows. The dude is definitely entertaining. That is for sure. I can't wait to have this conversation tonight. Everybody that's fans of all three shows seems to be really stoked that we're all getting together. I look forward to it. I hope that you guys all come show up. That will be at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, 7 p.m. Central Time. I will put the links in my Telegram and on my Twitter. I look forward to, yet again, merging families, because these guys don't necessarily all say the exact same things that I do, just like what happened today in the chat. That respectful exchange of ideas means everything to me. It's legitimately why I'm doing this. So thank you guys all for doing it with me today. I hope to see you guys all tonight as we do it again with Captain Kyle and Dave from News Treason. It's going to be awesome. If you two don't know Dave, so I don't know Captain Kyle yet. I'm going to get to know him tonight. But if you guys don't know Dave, I know you saw him in the chat today, you should check his channel out.
What time is the show tonight?
Tonight's 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Yeah, I'll put it in my Telegram and on my Twitter. I'm going to promote it after we get off of this one. I put it in the Telegram, but I didn't put it on Twitter yet.
You've got JFanon coming on when? Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
At this time at noon?
Yep,
Eastern?
same thing. 1 o'clock. 1 Eastern.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on my calendar.
Yeah, Sean and Drunk Pinata too. I don't know if you got.
Great.
Oh, if you don't know Drunk Pinata, so Drunk Pinata's got a show where he calls it a cheat code, but I think what he does is brilliant. So Drunk Pinata goes on by himself, except for he goes on a couple other shows, but Drunk Pinata basically just plays the enemy's content, and he sits there. Yes, he just plays CNN, MSDNC. He plays them all, and he just shreds them. Right? He calls it a cheat code because he's been doing this for a really long time, but it is a super entertaining show. it's logical thinking with Drunk Pinata. His voice almost reminds me of like an Awakened Outlaw, where it's very calm and cool and deep, and he just shreds the enemy throughout his show. It's awesome. It's really cool. So getting to hang out with him is really cool because logical mind, charismatic, and of course JFanon. Everybody knows Sean, so it's going to be awesome. All right. Well, you guys are the best. I thank you one more time for coming to hang out with me.
Honestly, thanks to everybody in the chat. I mean, it's so much fun to like have interaction and stuff like that. And you guys people are thinking. That's the best part.
Well, this is how everybody's walking away.
Oh, hey guys, I'm back from retard school.
That is awesome.
That's how I always feel.
Yeah, like the day after the alien prediction. There we were
During the show. We're like,
Paul and I going back to retard school.
yeah,
that was
absolutely. Well, live and learn. I don't mind learning in full public view. The best way to get good at something is to fail at it.
Yes,
nothing wrong with being wrong.
There's not one of us that are sitting up here trying to teach everybody what to think. The only thing I'm promoting out here is free thought process, ascension, love, and respect for each other. I think that we're over the target. Don't get me wrong, but I think that we do that with the right reasons in mind. So,
you said something really interesting. We have no interest in telling people what to think. We're just trying to help people learn to think. We'll help you figure out how to think. We don't care if you disagree with us.
Don't believe us. Please don't believe us. Do your own
Yeah,
thinking.
don't believe us.
We might be nuts. We certainly have a track record to show we're wrong.
But there's one more message though. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Yeah.
We can disagree. Just talk it out and then hug it out and then keep it moving because we all have the same goal.
Yep.
All right. This was awesome. I love you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right. We'll do it again next time.
All right.
Peace.